Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. Welcome back, everyone, to another week of the podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode. I'm going to get into it really quick and not ramble on this like I always do and tell you the announcements super quick. Number one, if you haven't joined the Facebook crew yet, it is the place to be. We discuss the episodes. We don't really discuss anything. We just hang out, and it's a great way to connect with other people who listen to the show and get to talk to me, and I love talking to you. So join the Facebook crew. The link is in the show notes. And also in the show notes, there's a link to iTunes. And if you want to support the show, the best way to do it is tell a friend, and also to leave a review on iTunes. That would be really, really nice of you. It makes my day. So that would be cool. That's really all I have to share with you. I hope you guys have an amazing week. And this episode is so much fun. It's such a great conversation. I absolutely love Val, who you'll meet and get to know in this episode. She's Valerie Chaney. Check out Real Girl Programs. I'm going to be part of it. I love it. And that is the organization that she supports and works for and with, and she's awesome in so many ways. If you listen to the Pete Holmes podcast, maybe you're obsessed with it like I am. You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. Val is Pete's girlfriend. She's his main squeeze, and she's actually made a couple appearances on the Pete Holmes podcast, and I loved her on there, and you will too, because she's just so kind and genuine and really cool and funny, and I just relate to her a lot. We're into the same things, and I always wanted to meet her as I would listen to the podcast, and not even only when she was actually on his podcast hosting it with him, but also whenever he would mention her and the things that she liked, I would be like, dang, I like that stuff too. This Val character sounds really cool. And so eventually I reached out and we became friends, and here she is on the podcast, and when I'm getting to know her for the first time, and she's so awesome. I absolutely adore her, and I know you will too, and you'll have a lot of fun listening to this episode. So enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon. Actually, I did have one more announcement that I forgot. So super quick, if you listened to last week's episode with Kim and Ami, all about vaginal kung fu, and that amazing episode about sex and our vaginal health, definitely check out her course, Vaginal Kung Fu, that is starting really soon. The link to that is in the show notes, and I am a graduate. I took it last year, so if you have any questions on that, email me, katiedalebout@gmail.com, or just check out the link in the show notes. There's a free video series that goes along with that even just doing that little free video series will really teach you a lot. It taught me a lot. So just wanted to plug that, and I'll talk to you soon. Welcome back, everyone.
Hey.
I'm so excited for today's episode. I have the amazing Valerie Chaney in Wonderland today, and I'm so excited to hang out with you, Val, and kind of share the weird way that we met. And we met online because you're dating one of my favorite podcast hosts, Pete Holmes, and he mentions you a ton in, you know, he talks a lot about his life, so of course he mentions you a ton in the podcast, and I think I told you this in email, but every time he would mention you, I would be like, oh my gosh, this Val girl sounds so cool. Like when he had Josh Radnor on, he was like, yeah, you know, my girlfriend Val likes his movies. And I was like, I love his movies. And then when Elizabeth Gilbert came on, he was like, oh yeah, you know, my girlfriend Val was really excited. I was like, I'm really excited about this one. And then we're the exact same age. And so then when you were actually on one of the podcasts, everything you said, I was like, oh my gosh, she seems so nice and cool. And I learned more about what you do and the organization you work with, and I was like, I want to be friends with her. And so I emailed you, and here we are.
Yeah, it was so fun to get your email, because when I did Pete's podcast, I gave out my email as like a promotion for Real Girl, my organization that I work for. And I got a bunch of emails from people saying like, can you ask Pete to do my podcast? Or can you ask Pete if I could be on his podcast?
Oh my
And then I get this
gosh.
really, really sweet email from you saying, I think we should be friends. And do you want to do my podcast? And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm thrilled to actually be, the work that you're doing is so great and so important and so in line with what I'm passionate about and what I do. So I was very happy that you reached out.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, I love podcasts so much because I get to have a deep conversation with someone the first time that I ever speak with them, and it gives me kind of an excuse to talk to people that I want to talk to and I might not get to otherwise unless we were
Totally.
recording. So I'm really grateful for it.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly what Pete says about his podcast too.
Yeah, yeah, he says something that really like from listening to his podcast that really kind of blew my mind is that he was like it's kind of like being on an airplane where you turn off your cell phone and you're with somebody for an hour, 2 hours. His podcasts are like super long sometimes.
Yep.
And you're so present with that person. And I think the long form conversation, I think that's why people are liking podcasts so much, because it's kind of become a lost art because people are on their phones or it's little sound bites or, and I mean, I love me some This American Life as much as the next guy, but even, it's a
Right.
bunch of other stuff interjected, and this is just the complete long podcast, unedited, and I love that.
Yeah, totally. Isn't it funny that we had all these things like instant messaging and texting, and
Yeah.
like now because of podcasts, we're all like, oh, wait, conversations are so like, have you heard this new thing where people just talk to
Yeah.
each other? It's so crazy.
I know, I
Um,
know. It's so funny. I never even thought of that. Yeah, like our generation, it was all AIM, growing up and
yeah.
like how we like
Uh-huh.
communicated with each other. And so, yeah, gosh, I didn't even think about that. This is
Yeah.
really like innovative, but really vintage and old.
Totally. I love that we just like I'm all about like human connection and the way that we kind of need each other. So I love that we just like found a new way to go back to this thing where it's like, oh, we require connecting with each other. We have to do it. Like whatever form it takes, like we need to just like sit down and get to know each other.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And don't you think that like the best parts of the conversation, like the juiciest parts of the conversation happen after there's been like, half an hour or you've talked about one thing that led to the next and led to the next and it's you have to get deep in there to get to those places.
Totally, absolutely. Well, that is Pete's defense for why his podcast is often 2 hours. Is he says like people don't really get comfortable until the second hour, so that's how
Yeah.
you get them like really, really open up after that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So, okay, so
Yeah.
I want to know everything about you basically. So, did you always live in LA or you live in LA now, but what brought you there?
Well, Pete brought me there actually. I'm from Northern California, like almost the Oregon border, Humboldt County. It's actually the same, I went to the same high school as Sarah Bareilles. That's the only famous
Oh,
person.
that's cool. Were you
That's,
guys friends?
no, she's a few years older than me, so we didn't go there at the same time. But
Was she
that's
like
like
in all
our,
the school plays and stuff?
she was in our it's called
Musicals?
yeah, it's called limited edition. It's like the a cappella group. Like
Oh,
they're like
cool.
a really popular, it's hard to get into, and she was like the star of that, I heard, while she was there. But other than that, and weed, like it's the place where a lot of people grow really good weed. Those are our only claims to fame. So yeah, so it's a tiny, tiny town. And I met Pete at a show in San Francisco, and we were long distance for about a year and a half. And then finally, just when that started becoming unbearable, I was like, I had just decided that I didn't really want to teach middle school anymore, which is what I was doing. So I felt like a good time for a change. So we went from being long distance to living in the same house here in LA. And it was actually a very smooth transition. It shouldn't have been. Like, that's where you get the stories of like, and that's when I found out that he leaves paper towels everywhere, whatever.
Yeah.
He does do that, but it doesn't bother me. um, but yeah, so it was, I've been here for the last year and a half, and I'm really loving it. I've been blessed to like kind of inherit this community of friends, and that's something that's so important to me. And now, it takes like about a year usually to adjust and settle in, and so now this last 6 months, it's been feeling really like my home. And then I found Real Girl, which ended up being like the perfect job for me at this time. And yeah, so I'm really loving it. I love it here.
That's so cool. It's funny because I do listen to his podcast, and I found it actually somewhat recently-ish, but I guess time goes by so fast. So I guess it was like a year ago. But I remember him talking about like he was not dating anyone, and then he was dating someone long distance, and then he was dating you, and so now it like all makes sense. So it's really cool.
Yeah. It was really sweet. His podcast is, and I'm sure it sounds like yours is similar in this way. His podcast is very like transparent. So he's really honest about everything in his life. And so many people come up to him and say, I feel like I know you. And I usually say, like, you basically do if you listen to the podcast. Yeah. Like he's very honest. And so we had been dating for a long time before he really even mentioned me, and definitely before he mentioned my name. So it was kind of sweet. He was like extra protective of just like our relationship. And so by the time he did start mentioning me, we had already been dating for like 2 years. But it was really nice.
It's so cool to hear. And I think I told you this we've been like pen pals for a while before we actually did this podcast, and I told you this then, but in a recent episode, I mean, he's talked about your relationship in lovely ways in lots of episodes, but recently he said one thing that just like, I don't know, it just like moved me to tears, because like I'd gotten to know you through the podcast, and I was just like, or through email from scheduling this, and you just seemed really cool. And then he was just saying something, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but what he said was so sweet and so nice, and it just made me so happy that I have this like beautiful example of a great relationship in my life with you two. And I don't even know you in person yet, but like it was really cool to see that and feel that from him, and then also know you a little bit. And anyways, it was awesome. So I'm glad he does use your relationship to share about himself and you.
That's really sweet. I really appreciate that. And I can tell you, like, we're 3 years into it, and it is the relationship that I've always dreamt of, but didn't really know was actually possible. So I do feel, really in a place to be able to just like say to people, like, hold out. It's really possible to have somebody who like sees you completely and loves you exactly the way that you want and need to be loved, and you find it really easy to love them in the way that they need to be loved. And it's something really magnificent that both of us are like constantly, like every day we're like, I can't believe we found each other and this is our life. And so it's really good. It's really good stuff.
So how did you guys meet you said you met at a show when he was in, where you lived in San Francisco?
I lived actually like 5 hours. So this is the embarrassing part. Yeah. So I lived about 5 hours north of San Francisco, and I had started listening to the podcast, I think in its first year. Mm-hmm. So it was fairly new. And then I like knew him, or I just knew that he was a stand-up. I had never really seen any of his stand-up. And so I was always driving down to San Francisco, because even though it was 5 hours away, it was the nearest city, because my small town's really isolated. And I drove down with my friend, and we went to see a show. And then I actually waited in line to meet him. And afterwards, we met, and he said, "I'm going to be at this bar next door afterwards if you want to meet me there." And I did, and couldn't believe that he had, like, I just was beside myself the whole time. And we like talked until the bar closed, and we kept in touch afterwards and texted, and started seeing each other about once a month in San Francisco. So San Francisco is a very special city to us because that's where our relationship was pretty much facilitated for the first year and a half. And, it was a really casual thing. Like, we would just like meet and have these like romantic weekends and then go back to our own lives, and which I think was really, really important for both of us. Just to learn I really needed to learn how to be able to exist and be happy on my own and not require that from the person I was in a relationship with. And that really taught me, like, I found so much freedom in being like, I can meet you and we can have these wonderful romantic weekends, but then like, I also am totally fine and living my life on my own. And he really needed that at that time too. So it really set a good foundation for our relationship where, I had been married before, and that relationship was really, really codependent. And now this relationship could not be more opposite. Like, it set a good foundation for being like, you have your things that you do, and I'll support you in any way I can, but like, they're yours, and I have my things and they're mine. And for me, that was really important. It was a big shift in my life once I started seeing, when I stopped seeing love as kind of like two incomplete people meet and then they make one complete person, to being like two healthy. Now I kind of see love as like a bowl, and you're complete people ideally, and you put into that bowl. It's like this third thing outside of you that you like protect and you put into. And the healthier that you are, which is only your responsibility to take care of yourself, the healthier you are, the more you can put into this love bowl or this thing. And so, I do feel like I have a responsibility to him to take care of myself, but that's not why I do it. If we were to break up tomorrow, God forbid, I would still know exactly who I was, and it wouldn't be shattering to my identity. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. That was such an articulate, beautiful way of saying that. I'm obsessed with that. I want to you need to write a book about that, because that was such a great way to say it. And I think so many people need to know that message. I mean, I know that was the case for me in the last relationship that I was in. And I think it's really common for people to have their first relationship, or at least a relationship, their first big relationship, or that was the case for me, I guess, to be a codependent situation where you're I think, when you're young, like, you're trying to figure out who you are. And I feel like that's pretty common for first big relationships with people, for people to think that that's how you do it. You just are codependent, and that's just what happens with that. And we forget to figure out who we are ourselves, and we just figure out what the relationship is, and we identify with the relationship instead of identifying ourselves. Or at least that was the case for me, and it sounds like you had a similar situation with your last relationship. And then when we broke up, it was like a huge awakening, and just a big, I need to figure out how to unclog my toilet and how to be a person. And, and I did all of those things and am doing all of those things. And I think that's when you can, attract a new relationship, or be in a space to, if that's not even necessarily the goal right away, but to just be, like you said, a complete person by yourself, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And even regardless of that, you're such a better person for the other person you're in a relationship with if you are a strong individual yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I when we were long distance, I used to write Pete these like little, I would text him these little poems. And one of the poems I wrote him was called, it was like, I could live without you,
Oh, so
which
good.
doesn't sound romantic, but it was like I could live without you. I would still eat and breathe and sleep. Like I could, whatever. I would still exist and be fine. But then like it ends with like, but living with you is so much more fun.
Yeah.
But it really is. But I remember like I sent that to him and he was like, that was my favorite. That was like the best way you could love me, because when you don't put that pressure of like, you have to not only be a person, but you have to also help whoever you're with be a person too. Like that's just putting so much pressure on your relationship, and really like setting it up for not only a possible failure, but like a truly devastating one if that does happen, because then you just have two people who are completely broken without each other, and probably also extremely unhealthy with each other, So that's one of the things that we teach at Real Girl. That's a big thing that we do, is we first teach how to have a healthy relationship with yourself, and then teach how to have a healthy relationship with others. So the foundation really is like, first you have to, we use the like oxygen mask
I love that
metaphor, which I think is so important. And that's something that I didn't really see modeled. My mother taught me a lot of wonderful things, and she's really a great person and did the best that she could. But as far as being like an empowered individual, that's something that I had to and still am having to really kind of teach myself, because I watched my mom really just give herself 100% to everybody around her, and take so much better care of the people around her than she ever did of herself. And even like it was painted at an early age that like putting your health, your like emotional and everything, your health above being responsible for someone else's health was completely selfish.
Yeah.
So like making a decision that was right for you, possibly even if that means that it hurt somebody else or whatever, was like the worst thing you could do. Mm-hmm. So when I left my marriage, that was a really big moment for me to be like, I don't think that that's right. I don't think anybody wins if you're making decisions that are detrimental to your own health,
Yeah, I completely relate to the mother thing. That's the really similar dynamic that I grew up with. And I think that's really important that we're doing that work. You're doing that work with Real Girl to empower girls in that way, because I think we see that modeled for us all the time. And, I think Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this, that sense of wanting to, and then we see it modeled by our mothers. And then, of course, we're going to be codependent in relationships because we see that kind of sense of putting everything into one person. And that's what I think in Committed, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about, that of like, we're asking our partners to be our, best friend and also our business partner and also our romantic partner, and you're putting so many hats on this one person, where if you can really take care of yourself fully, you just need someone for like the cuddles and smiles, and like you can do everything else yourself, and you can be this whole person. And that was like a really, really big takeaway for me for that. And then also seeing that modeled, from my mom from a young age, of taking care of others before yourself, that is something that just becomes ingrained in us. And it's something that's been really important to me lately. Of my mom is so awesome and amazing and like the best person in the world, but she she devoted her entire life to taking care of me. And and that's a lot, that's a lot to
Yeah.
to put on someone. And recently, I'm 25, and I'm like, Mom, this is the time for you to take care of yourself. You've done good, good job.
Yeah.
And she spent her life in the last several years, like taking care of her parents, and my grandma died recently. And so I was like, okay, Mom, this is really the time for you to take care of yourself. And it's like a new skill she has to learn. And I'm really watching her do that. And I find that the more I have my shit together, when I like don't need to ask for money and like I am in a good space, I'm doing that for me, but as I'm doing it for me, it's also allowing her to actually do that for herself,
Yeah. Isn't that so interesting? And you probably are being an example to her. I'm really interested right now in how I'm starting to see with my parents the slow shift from like them fully taking care of me and being my examples to me fully taking care of them and being their examples. Like we're not there yet, but like I really am. When I was leaving my husband, my therapist said, she's like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of glimpse that your mother was actually jealous, maybe a little bit jealous of your strength in that situation. And that to me sounded so weird at the time. Like I was like, no, there's no way. And I haven't seen that like exactly, but what I have seen is she is starting to do the same thing, like starting to stand up for herself a little bit more in her relationship, and starting to care less about what people think of her, and all these things that ideally you're doing in your adolescence, and she's doing it in her 50s. But better late than never, So it is this really interesting kind of shift where now I not only am thinking like, well, I have to kind of raise myself to be the empowered woman that I want to be, but then I also like am becoming that example to my mother, which is a really strange feeling.
I know.
But I'm proud and happy to do. But that brings me to another thing that you brought up for me is I feel like, and I say this with no judgment at all. I think that like working on yourself is so hard. Like just trying to become your truest, highest self is such a chore that I often think that sometimes what happens is people either on a conscious level or a subconscious level are often having kids thinking like, well, it's too late for me, but I'm going to or not even it's too late for me, but they get excited about this fresh start almost of this person that they can create that's going to do way better things that they ever did, or like, and that is one of the cool things about kids is that they are starting from ideally such a maybe a more enlightened place, than you were, because you have all of your life lessons then to like, and to pass down to them. But I do think that sometimes I've seen that it seems like people are like, well, now I'll put all of that into kids, and then you get to stop growing or something.
Oh my gosh. Yes. You're blowing my mind right now. Yeah. Because it's like this working on myself stuff is so freaking hard. I'm going to just F that. I'm going to just have a new one and let them do it. Yeah. It's trippy to think about it that way, but I think it really, there's a lot of truth to that. And it's definitely an intense way to examine that and look at that. And do you think too it might be a generational thing? Because I think maybe personal growth and working on yourself and working, and maybe it's just us and that we're into that, but do you think it's maybe in our parents' generation it was just more common to have kids and start over, like we were saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like I'm seeing that for sure. And the trends, my mom said something to me when I was just raving about my new job with Real Girl and how, I'm teaching these girls to be empowered and to really put in the work to be their highest self and all of this, and just like going on and on about it. And she was like, "Oh, honey, that's all really great." She's like, I don't want you to get so focused on yourself that you forget to serve others," which is like, okay, that's great. That's a great reminder. And I do think that like serving others is so important, but that is kind of a glimpse into the old framework that I was raised with, which is like it's too self-indulgent to be working on yourself or to like go to therapy or to be, when really the truth is like like I said, everybody around you benefits. This is what I've found the truth to be. Everyone around you benefits the healthier you are. Yeah. And if you're healthy, you're more likely to then be like, okay, I'm set. How, obviously there's always growing and things you can work on, but it's like, now how can I serve others? As opposed to, I had a really big epiphany like about my mom specifically, which is basically exactly what I said, where I was like, oh, she had such a hard childhood that I think her serving everybody was deliberately a way to like not directly look at her own issues. It was like a distraction of like, and it's a, as far as distractions go, that's like a good one, I guess, to have.
Right.
But
coping
like
mechanisms.
Exactly. But it's like, that's codependency, like to the T, which is like, you just are putting everything into this other person so that you don't have to become a whole person yourself. And it's really hard to just deprogram all of that. So like right now I'm at this place where I intellectually, I feel like have it down. Like in theory, I understand, what it takes to be a healthy, empowered woman in this society for the most part. Like obviously not every detail of it, but intellectually I know it. But then I'm battling 25 years of programming and conditioning for the opposite. So I still catch myself, just little things that we're always taught, like just saying yes to things that I don't want to do, or, putting somebody's feelings completely before my own well-being. And, all the little ways that we often like train girls specifically to be peacemakers. And I think that goes so well with how I am naturally, that right now I'm really trying to identify what is who I am just naturally and my personality traits, and what is just what I've been told that I should be as like a polite, well-natured, like good-natured girl in this society. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think it kind of speaks back to what you were saying before, when your mom was like, don't work on yourself too much and forget to serve others, when really you're kind of simultaneously killing two birds with one stone there. I think being the example is really the only way that we can serve others, I think. And if you don't take care of yourself, then you don't have anything. Got to fill up your cup before you can fill up any. It's the oxygen mask thing you were talking about before. And so that's why I think it's so great to be the example and work on ourselves to do any good work in the world. And that's why I think teaching that exact piece of work to young girls is what really attracted me to you and your work in the first place. And I think we need to like take a step back and define Real Girl and talk about Real Girl to everyone listening. So I want to know that, and how did you first find it, and how did you first decide to be involved?
Yeah. So I was really going through all of this once I like moved out here, and I kind of had some freedom to, I had quit my middle school teaching job. Yeah. And I was really in this place of just like redefining myself kind of. And that's when I really realized like what I want to work on is how to be a strong individual and really kind of raise myself the way that I would want to raise a daughter.
Yeah.
And so I had just I kind of had that exact sentence like in my mind. And I was going to, or I still go to a wonderful class here in LA called Yoga Booty Ballet. It's like this super fun dance class, and it's like this community of women. Sometimes men come, but it's mostly these women that really like get really close and like support each other. And it's this became one of my first kind of communities here in LA. And the instructor, Kristen Huffman, is this wonderful, beautiful spirit and someone who was just really inspiring to me. And she just kind of mentioned in passing that she started doing work with Real Girl. And that's all she said. And just based on the name, I was like,
I know.
I was like, man,
Same.
I was like, this has got to be something
There's
really
something
special.
to this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I just searched it. This was last summer. I just like kind of searched it online, and I applied to become an instructor, and it was right before they were doing trainings for their summer camps. And I met Anea, who is the woman who created all of this and is really like, she is the lifeblood of Real Girl. Like she does everything. She's not like, it's kind of, exactly. It's like out of her house. This woman works so hard to make this happen. And we really just hit it off and just had a lot of similarities. And she, you know, she's like probably like 15 or 20 years older than me. So she was just a really good, this kind of role model that I really needed and still need at this time in my life, of like somebody who is similar to me and also completely like self-actualized and has worked through all of the stuff that I'm trying to work through now. Yeah. So I started doing camps, and then I work like at her house with her. It's just me and her. It's so fun to go in every day, and we gossip and we check Facebook and we like get some serious work done, and then we, go to lunch, and I'm really loving it. So it just was one of those things where I had been looking for the right thing, and
it found you.
It found me. And then I had gone down different, like slightly, done a couple like applications and interviews for other things. And it was like, oh yeah, it's kind of like love. Like when you know. So I feel so fortunate, and like, it's not a coincidence at all that this has found me at this time in my life. So to answer your question about what it is, it's basically, we do workshops and camps for girls between the ages of 8 and 16, all over the US and right now in Hong Kong and Guatemala. And, we're launching in, the UK. We're doing like a soft launch in February. So it's really expanding. And the foundation of it is based on this appalling statistic that says that the average American girl's self-esteem is the highest it will ever be at age 9. And then it like severely plummets short in the years after that. And it never gets to as high as it was at age 9. So it's so heartbreaking. And if you're like me, after I heard that, I was like, that just seems crazy. And then I thought back to like how I was at age 9. And I'm like, yeah, that's like, I was like, right. Yeah, I was unrecognizable. I like knew what I wanted. I was not afraid to like be in front of people and so it really seems to be the case. So the goal of Real Girl is to catch that tender age, slightly before or in the years after, and really before there's been so much conditioning that our society is still doing to young girls. We really try to catch it and give them the tools to be able to decipher for themselves, and a good foundation of like knowing who they are so that they won't kind of like believe in the bullshit
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, an example of we do like a big media section. So we have two modules for that are like the first one is media and body image. So we show them like the Dove evolution video. So we show them all these like photoshopping tricks, and we're saying like, look, these companies just want to sell ads, and so they have to make you believe that you're not good enough unless
Yep.
you have their product. And like we get them really, it's really fun to watch these girls like 11 and 12 getting really
Angry.
like angry, and they should be,
Yeah.
it's like they're telling you exactly what you should look like, and if you don't look like this, then there's something wrong with you, or uh so we do that with body image, and then we do it with gender roles, and then that's addressing like uh, girls don't play sports well, or like we go through all the fairy tales and kind of like these patterns of the damsel in distress, and why does she need a man to save her? Why can't she save herself? And all this stuff. And it's so fun to watch them be like, what the heck? Like
Yeah.
girls can play sports. I'm good at soccer,
Yeah.
So it's really, and it's one of those things. It's just like every time I teach it, I not only think, God, how different would my life be if somebody had
Yeah.
told me this at that age?
Yep.
And also, like, it still serves as a reminder, things that I still need to hear when I'm like, catching myself watching Scarlett Johansson on the movie, and then like
Yep.
feeling really bad about myself on the way home or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, we focus on those kinds of things. We focus on creating your own path. We do a whole like body positive way of teaching them about puberty, and like how their periods are connected to the moon in this really like cool
This
and
is so
ancient way.
good.
Oh, it's so fun. And then the last day we do a presentation of all these like warrior women, these like strong women from like, like myths all the way to like Hillary Rodham Clinton. And then they
Cool.
make warrior masks, and then they learn self-defense. So it's really just like teaching them to be completely self-sufficient, and like not really put up with anybody telling them or defining them in any specific way. And
Wow.
yeah, and I love it.
It's so cool. I mean, I read a lot of that on the website, and I applied to be a Real Girl instructor. And so I
Yay!
said this in my essay, but I was just like, I mean, you said it too. I've been so curious of like, what would high school have been like if I had these tools that you teach in Real Girl, and also that I've taught myself in the last few years of my early 20s because I had to teach myself, and
Right.
what it would have been like how my experience of high school and college would have been so different if I would have known the things that I know now. And I think that's a common thing to think, like, gosh, if I would have just known what I know now. So to have the opportunity to teach that to girls is just so amazing. I mean, the piece about body image is like the most close to my heart, and I want to talk about that more for sure. But the piece about connecting your period to the moon, and I think that that's something that I learned recently in the past like 3 years that completely changed my life and has helped me so much. And I've had multiple people on the show come on to talk about our cycles, and so the people listening know about that. But that's just something that was never even something I considered when I like got my first period. It was just like, what I learned when I got my first period was like how to strategically get my tampon or pad into my pocket so no one saw, and like get to the bathroom quickly with hiding it, and like nothing exciting or like, wow, this is like a great feminine thing. It was like, how can I hide this so no one knows that I have it at the pool,
Totally. Oh my God, there was such, and it's so interesting because when we do that, when we have that day, that part of the camp, we also have like a questions portion, and these girls are often, some of them are really shy, but by that time you've spent enough time together that they're pretty open to answering questions or asking questions. And almost all of them are questions like that. Like, how do I get my tampon from my backpack to my pocket? Or what if my teacher doesn't let me go to the bathroom? Or like, what if I bleed through? And like, it's really, you realize like how early on they're trained to be embarrassed about this thing that literally is lifeblood. Like, so one thing that we teach them, and it sounds like I wouldn't be surprised if you also know about this and talk about this, but we teach them that not only, is that the material that would nourish a baby if you chose to have one, but it also, they're finding it has stem cells in them, so it could be used to like save lives. So we're like, this is like magic stuff. Like, not everybody has to be like that artist that paints with menstrual blood. Yeah. but like you, at the very least, don't be ashamed that your body can do this unbelievable magical thing. And Anea, the creator of Real Girl, she has this segment in her book, 9 Ways We're Screwing Up Our Girls. I really recommend it. It's an amazing, like really like to the point book. And it's actually based on the I got it
when I applied.
Did you? Yeah. Oh my God, I did too. And I loved it. And it's so practical, and it's based on that's the foundation of Real Girl, is the 9 ways is addressed by the 9 modules that Real Girl addresses. And she just basically writes about how there's no possible way for girls to feel 100% comfortable in their own skin and happy and healthy about their body image if they are taught to think that this thing that their body does once a month is disgusting and shameful and embarrassing. Like, it's just such a disconnect to being like, how can you teach healthy body image, but you're still treating this like it's this dirty little secret,
Yeah.
And that's something that, again, like you said, that was just not even close to being how I learned about my period.
No, not even close. And I think it's great that you're talking about like, sexuality and periods and puberty, because parents do it sort of, but I think that a lot of times they're uncomfortable, or their parents didn't do it in a great way. And like, I remember my mom like taught me this stuff through an American Girl book that she like kind of read with me. And it like, it was just like, so I remember it, like, I think it had like Velcro pubic hair that was involved. And like, I mean, it like meant well, but at the end of the day, there's so many more questions. And I think just talking about periods, like, being able to, like, you can kind of when you're older with your friends, but it's still almost in like a shameful way. And I think recently in my 20s, when I've gotten more into feminism and spirituality and just different personal growth and just, understanding myself as a person and maturing, I've been more comfortable with speaking about these things. And so I'm so glad we're talking about periods right now and saying the word and talking about this stuff, because I think that destigmatizes it, and the more we do that, the better the world will create for girls growing up and just in general. I just think that we should talk about periods a lot more than we do.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And there really is this like kind of, so I'm also slowly making my way through this very dense, wonderful book called Women After All. That's kind of a biological, historical, physical, like every kind of field of study, it feels like, argument for why our species will be better off if women are at least equal, if not put in a superior position.
Yes, I need to read this book.
It's so good. I really recommend it. But there really, a lot of this like hinges on kind of the idea of how ancient women were considered gods because they could bleed for 7 days and not die, and because they could literally like hold life in their body and form another person. So like they were the key for reproduction.
Yeah.
And so when like in ancient tribes, when they would have spiritual gatherings, if a woman was on her period, she wasn't allowed to be part of that gathering because they thought she was so powerful. That was like her magical time, that she was so powerful that it would intimidate the gods and the goddesses.
Yeah.
So that turned into the like early Christian and like Judeo-Christian belief of women aren't allowed in the temples when they're menstruating because they're dirty. And it's so crazy how just in that
It's like a
time,
game of telephone.
exactly, it's like a game of telephone. And it also kind of, women after all would make the argument that it all stems on this like pouch envy, basically, which I think Pete's even talked about on his podcast. You might have heard him talk about it, but just this idea of like women were so powerful that it became really threatening to men, and that there was this like core envy that they couldn't do this magical procreation,
yeah,
that women could do. So then that's kind of what kickstarted the whole controlling women in all of these various ways that are still occurring in our society today, that are just like basically mind fucks. Sorry, I hope I can say that.
No, please. Yeah.
And it's crazy to just reading that gave me such a completely different framework. And now I'm starting to see all the ways that like it's totally worked, just like years and years and years of making us believe that, you know, like the periods are gross, or that that we have a specific role that just like we can only fit into these things. It's biological that you should be polite and you should put others first and all these things that we're trained. And it's like, no, that's just something that has been told to us so long that now we believe that's just nature instead of nurture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. And I'm so glad that we're having conversations like this and people are talking about it. And it's true. I mean, they should be jealous. It's the most creative act that you can do. And I was listening to this other podcast, which you should listen to this episode at least. It was really cool. The host was talking about when she was pregnant, how creative she was in her business and in her life and in her projects, because she literally had these hormones pumping in her, doing the most creative act you can do. I saw this thing on Tumblr the other day that was like a gif of like a pregnant person being like, I'm so crafty, I make people, you know? But it really is true. I mean, we were designed to do this like such a beautiful thing, but there's also so much over the years, there's become this shame attached to it. So talking about our periods and talking about our femininity and using our femininity as a superpower is really, I think, what Real Girl is arming young girls to do, and at least not shut them down from doing that, because we come into the world knowing everything we need to know. We just like pick up all this Velcro along the way. And if we can prevent them from picking up some of that Velcro, I'm sure they'll still pick up some of it. I think that's where the real juice is. That's the most helpful thing we can do.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's like, you know, one example of that is like when we're teaching the media and body image stuff, we're saying like, look, we're not saying like you're gonna see these things. We're not saying don't ever pick up another magazine, don't look at these billboards, don't watch these movies. It's just we're just trying to train you to, when you do see those, see the like lies it's telling you. You know what I mean? Like just have the ability to discern and to really see things as they truly are, not just how you're meant to like fall for it, you know? But yeah, it's really, and we also, I just want to add, because I do think this is a cool detail, when we are teaching them anything about their bodies, we're very careful to say, and it can create a baby if you choose. So like I really think that that's such an important thing for me, because because my mom only ever in her life, like her only goal was to become a mother. And like I've seen how that's played out and what that did to her, like during her empty nest time, and like just that was her only purpose, and she really only knew to train me to also believe that. So from an early age, I was like babysitting and changing diapers and working in the church nursery and like really being groomed to just want to be a mother. And so and then my feelings and opinions about that have changed back and forth several times throughout just my 20s even. But I really think that it's important to tell girls like, look, your body can do this, and that's what you should find strength and power in. Whether you choose to do it or not is completely up to you. But it doesn't mean that you're less of a woman if you don't have a baby, or even if like you can't have a baby. That's not the point. The point is that we were designed for this really cool thing, and you also have a choice to participate in that or not, you know.
That's so good. Yeah. And again, I think a lot of that is a generational thing, and I think empowering young girls now, and I think our generation is a bit more aware of questioning what our parents did. I guess every generation questions what the generation prior to them did.
Right.
And we're just kind of in it now. But yeah, looking at how our parents lived their lives without really judgment, just of, you know, getting curious about maybe there's another way to see it. And maybe the things that I thought that I wanted when I was young, I actually only wanted because that's all I saw available for me, and that's all I saw modeled for me. And maybe I want to prioritize something else before being a mother, or not. But either way, it's my choice.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there's ideally every generation is ideally in at least more ways than not getting better than the previous generation.
Yeah.
So that's essential, you know, like you said, it's so important for me to always think about my parents as like, and this isn't true for every parent. So I'm really grateful that it's true for mine, that they really did the best that they could with what they had. And when I look at my grandparents, I see how far my parents have come, and that has helped me have like a new well of compassion for them, because I'm like, oh, you really, like, thank you for at least starting us at this point and not the point that you started, you know? So that's why, like, above all, I really think the most important thing is that you're just always growing. I think it's so important to not hit pause and not, you know, think like, okay, occasionally you do see people who have just become their parents, and you're like, how have you taken this any farther? Like, how are you've kind of stayed stagnant. And I guess that could be judgmental, but for me, the most important thing that I look in for myself and also the people that I surround myself with is that, like, there's constant movement forward and like challenging yourself and growing and doing that really, really hard work, even after you've found somebody that you want to spend your life with, even after you have kids. Like, you never get out of doing that. You know what I mean? You have to like always keep trying to be the best self you can be, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so interesting and beautiful to, in our 20s, I think it's the first time that we can look back at our parents as people, you know, and not as our parents, and look at how it was for them growing up with our grandparents, and really understand everything with more clarity. And because, you know, when you're growing up, they're your parents and they're like authority figures, and it's hard to separate yourself from that. But now that I've gotten separation and I've moved away, and I can finally understand, I think distance is really key, at least for me, and understanding that. But, you know, going home for the holidays and being around my mom, and my family in general, it's interesting to just kind of observe it, and to just be this, looking at it from a different lens. And it brings up a lot of emotion in how much I've changed, and in a lot of ways, like how much has also stayed the same. And it's fascinating, but it's really easy to be judgmental towards that. And I really look at that as that's something that I stop myself from doing, and being like, just being so compassionate. And like you said, everybody's doing the best that they can. And I'm sure that, in 10 years, I'll look back at how I was in my 20s with so much, changing probably. And I feel like we're all, like you said, with, the older woman that you were talking about earlier, how we're always growing and changing. And I've been saying this a lot lately, but I feel like our 20s are like this second adolescence that, nobody really tells you about.
Yeah.
Where you're just like constantly learning. So like, I feel like I'm going through everything I went through when I was younger. Like Tavi Gevinson has this thing where she says that being a teenager is like a cartoon character, because you're feeling all of these emotions for the first time, which makes them more intense. And then also you add on that all of these extra hormones.
Yeah.
And so that's, again, why I feel like Real Girl is so amazing. But I feel like I'm still that cartoon. And I'm still like feeling all of my I just feel a lot of feelings. It's just like how I am. But to really like look back on that, and I don't know.
Oh my gosh. No, you're totally right. I love that. Like I'm picturing my high school years, and I was totally a cartoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think like I have such a fondness for my 20s, because I've changed so much. And like I don't know, I just think that like it feels like every single day I'm learning something new about like who I am, and like discovering myself still. Like I'm still like getting to know me like somebody that I'm like newly dating,
Yes.
And I really think that it's important, a really important shift for me from my high school self to going through these things in my 20s has been to look at it honestly like that, with the same kind of compassion and self-love that I would have for a new friend or a new boyfriend or something.
Yeah.
Of just being like, oh, that made you angry? How interesting. Like saying this to myself, like, why were you feeling so upset? Like, and really like taking yourself out of it. And like you were talking with your parents, and just like observing and using it as a way to like get to know yourself. The double-edged sword part of constantly growing is that sometimes that can lead to this idea of like never being happy where you are, or always being so hard on yourself because you don't think that you are where you should be. And I think that is the quickest way to stunt growth, is by being so hard on yourself and critical of yourself that you don't it should just come from a place of loving yourself, that you want to be the best person that you are, not like hating who you are and wanting to change. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a really big lesson for me, is like, even when I do things that I'm not proud of, or when I think back on things that I kind of regret, having the compassion that I would have for my best friend, and saying like, look, you're learning, you're doing, life is hard, you're doing the best that you can, and next time you'll do better, and just like let it go, forgive yourself and move on, and don't make that mistake again if you can, like just try not to do it again, so but again, that's the kind of self-love that was taught to me, that my family still a lot, I still see a lot in my parents, that would just be considered completely selfish to give yourself that pass. Like, it's selfish if you don't carry your mistakes like a heavy burden the rest of your life.
The guilt.
The guilt of it.
I love what you said about really it's like what we were talking about earlier, about getting to know yourself. And then once you get to know yourself, you can figure out who you are, and then begin to like that person. I talk a lot about journaling. I wrote a book about journaling, and I write in there that, and I always recommend this to, the girls that I mentor, people who listen to the pod, about, really getting to know yourself through journaling, and then after you, because a lot of times we don't even know what we like or who we are because we've been just in it, like we've been in what we've been conditioned, right? Like for me, I was so in my eating disorder that I didn't know what I liked beyond that, you know? It was all like, what do I like beyond green juice and yoga? And like, who am I really? And actually, it's kind of funny that I'm talking to you, because I was so obsessed with health and wellness in a very, you know, I think now, and we can get into this too and talk, this usually comes up on the podcast, but I was so into those things in such a dogmatic way that I got to this unhealthy place. And then I turned to personal growth and spirituality as like another really dogmatic, unhealthy relationship. And then I had to be like, wait, what do I even like beyond that? And I ended up like getting into comedy and listening to Pete's podcast and other things, and really like figuring out, what do I even like? And I learned to play the ukulele, and I started to, and that was so important for me to figure out. And I think so many people have the same experience, whether it's, you know, with food and body image stuff, or with, you know, something else that you're going through in your life, where you're putting up these masks to the world and you don't really realize who you are underneath that. And I think, like you said, just questioning that and observing yourself, whether it's through journaling or just self-inquiry in your life, it's just key.
Totally. Absolutely. Oh, I mean, I can relate to that so much. Just this idea that like identity is so daunting. Like I remember for me in high school, just the big theme of that was like, who am I? Who am I going to choose to be? And what if I choose to be the wrong person? Like, and I was so desperately looking for identity in a box, basically. Like I wanted, like, here is your identity kit. It comes with full belief system, wardrobe, you know, like snarky remarks or whatever. Like it just comes with everything you'll need to be this exact person.
And it's protection.
It's protection, exactly, because being uniquely you is a really scary thing. And my brother one time told me, I think I was maybe 21 or 22, and he said, more than anybody I've ever, and my brother and I are very close and
Is he
similar.
Older or younger?
He's older. He's 5 years older.
Just the two of you, or do you have more siblings?
Yeah, it's just the two of us. And it's very strange because we're very, very similar in a lot of ways, which usually I feel like siblings do a lot of work to be the opposite of who their sibling is. So he knows me very well, and he's like, more than anybody I've ever known, you have been more people in your life. Like you've been,
oh wow, yeah,
you've had so many different identities in your life. And
that's so me.
I know. And what's so funny about that is he told me that when I was like 22 and married and a Christian, and like and if he only knew, like, oh, in the next 4 years I was gonna completely change all over again. But really, like, that was when I started to make the change towards, like you said, starting to ask questions about, like, instead of trying to subscribe to a certain belief system, just asking, like, what do I like? And also giving permission that it's okay if that contradicts whatever else I like, you know. Another thing my best friend Annie told me recently was, she's like, I was talking about, I think, so I've been vegan for the last 2 years, but then we went to the Netherlands, my friend Annie and I just, like, we agreed that we were going to just hope that their farming situation was better and eat a lot of cheese. So we did that. And then when I got back, I was like, I told her, like, oh my God, I still am eating cheese. Like, I can't, once I started, I can't stop. And she was like, you're so full of contradictions in the best way. And it makes me feel like I have permission to also have contradictions. Like, I give myself permission to do that. And what she was really saying, like, her saying that was so important to me, because it made me realize, like, yeah, you can green light if you're really, like, you know, doing yoga booty ballet one day, and then you have another day where you just want to, like, day drink and watch Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Or something. Just like, not that you give in to every whim, but you also just don't be so hard on yourself if you are changing your mind about something, or if what you like from one day to the next is very different. Like that's what that's what makes you uniquely you, which is what we need. We need people to be themselves, like uniquely themselves, in order for this whole machine to work at its highest function,
Yes. Oh my gosh. So much. I mean, I think that's everything. I think, and I talk about this a ton in my work, because how I got into all of this is really from my struggles with body image, which has been, the biggest struggle in my life, and still is in a lot of ways. But, and I think that it's easy to for that to be mine and many, many people, and women especially, because of the society we live in, where, we value one body shape, and it's a thin body shape that is what we see in the media, and we revere. And it's not that that's more beautiful than any other body shape. It's just what's difficult to attain, and that's what's rare, and that's what a society tends to look at. So looking at it from a sociological perspective, it's really interesting. And I think that this health movement that we're in, with veganism and paleo and like whatever, everything, it's like so polarizing and so everywhere. And a lot of that, I think people mask their body image issues as, quote, health issues, right? Where it's like, in the 90s, it was like you called a spade a spade. It was like, oh, it's, low fat and whatever. But it was like, clearly you're doing it for aesthetic reasons to manipulate your size and weight. And now a lot of people hide behind their motivations of health really as a way to, mask their wanting to manipulate their body, because it's for me, at least, I'll speak for myself, I felt like it was so uncool to want to alter my body, but being healthy was cool and trendy, and like Jay-Z's a vegan, so and you and Pete and like everybody, and so it was like cool, like that's that I can get behind. And I think it's just really important to remember that we should all create our own diets that work for ourselves, and our own spirituality that works for ourselves. And what I've realized in the last few years, and this is controversial to so many people out there who are still so dogmatic, but I think that we should take what we want from all the different religions and craft our own, and take the good stuff and leave the rest. And same thing with diet, take the good stuff and leave the rest, and just not be so damn hard on ourselves. And that's what I love about what you were saying, and relate to so much. And it's cyclical too, like you were saying, there are days when you want to go to yoga booty, which booty I want to booty ballet, which I want to go to because it sounds really fun. And there are other days where you want to just like day drink and watch Netflix in bed, which I also want to do with you because that's really fun.
But come to LA, we'll do both those things.
Totally amazing. But it's interesting because I think that's cyclical, because I think it has to do with our periods. I worked with this coach trying to get my period back after many years, and she was she works a lot with cycles and the moon, which you're familiar with Real Girl, and she really speaks about, during the different phases of our cycle, there's a phase for being in bed when you're bleeding and literally taking care of yourself and taking baths, and that's the time to watch Netflix in bed and not force yourself to do a hard workout. And then there's other times of the month where you're really active and you want to be active. And it's so true, whether you have a period or not, or whether you can intellectualize that, we all know that there are times of the month that we are really wanting to be active, and there's other times where we don't. And just trusting that it's a natural cycle and just not being hard on ourselves is so crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, I love it. I love all of that. Yeah. And really what a big thing that I learned when I learned the moon cycle was that the whole idea, and this is something that we're so intentional about telling the girls, but the whole idea of like women, like being bitches when that's not how we phrase it to the girls, but like when we're on our periods, is actually because that is a time when you're progesterone levels are really high and you just want to chill out and relax. But if you don't know that and you are being forced in a situation where you're having to be with people or you're having to be social or active or all these things, like you're not giving your body what it needs and your emotions what they need. So yeah, you're going to be pissy. Like, of course you are. Yeah. So like just really learning that, like, once I started, honestly, as best as I can, I will like plan things around around my cycle. Like we're having a Christmas get together tomorrow because that's when I'm like at the highest levels of my estrogen. Yes. I mean, it's not like that's not why, but this is why we didn't do it last weekend. You know, like I'm at the highest level of my estrogen, so I'm ready to go, and I'm like wanting to see people and all this stuff, and I'm often, as best as I can, really tender and loving to myself when my progesterone's high and I need to just like relax and be with one person or no people, you know? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think that is really important. Just knowing that goes back to like just knowing yourself and learning yourself. And honestly, it's so funny because Pete's somebody who really taught me that, just that ability to be like, you know what, he's so reflective, which is probably the number one thing that I love about him. Mm-hmm. It really saves me a lot of work because he just like knows himself so well. And he'll be like, you know, I'm feeling grumpy. I think it's because I just like got off the phone, you know, with my mom or something. And so I do think I'm just going to go ahead and like drink whiskey and watch Mad Men. And it's like, great. That's like such a good practice of self-love, is like, again, obviously everything's in moderation. And if you're only doing that, then that's an issue. Yeah. And you might want to ask yourself why, but really just like trying to truly take care of yourself. And I think you really hit the nail on the head when you mentioned that, like, when did taking care of yourself become do this like dogmatic thing, even if it's like sacrificing your well-being, you know?
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like, it's so I know. It's crazy. And I think what you said there about there are some days where you need to, you know, Pete loves Mad Men and whiskey. For me, it might be like Mindy Project and like, you know, sweet potatoes dipped in coconut oil or something. But
I love it.
Whatever it is for you, I think it's having a diverse tool belt of coping mechanism. Like, diversifying your coping mechanisms, you know, whether it's sometimes it is taking a bath, sometimes it's like warm bath is not going to cut it. I need something stronger than that. And sometimes it is calling a friend, but sometimes it's like that's the last thing I want to do is speak to another human being right now. So it is like zoning out and watching TV. But I think it's having that unique set of tools that works for you, and knowing that, you know, when you're frustrated or when you're having a bad body image moment or you're frustrated with work or a relationship or something, being able to befriend yourself and turn to yourself in this really loving way is so great. And it's so awesome that that's being taught to young people and to older people too. Like in this conversation we're having right now, like I basically just learned this stuff and I'm always learning and knowing too that those coping mechanisms are constantly going to grow and change as you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like they should be growing and changing because that's a sign that you are growing and changing.
Yeah.
And really like, this sounds like something that's exactly in line with everything that you do. But a big shift for me recently has been, and again, it's like an epiphany, which leads to then trying to train yourself to actually stick with this belief system. But like just the idea of diet and exercise being a way to love myself better, as opposed to what it always was for me and what I think it is for most women, which is like not liking your body, so punishing it until you get the result that you want, which for me was, you know, I'm 5'1", and so for me it was always the result that I wanted was never going to be possible anyway, because it was like tall women.
Yeah.
It's like, but it just has been this big revelation for me and has made me want to do things like yoga, booty ballet, or like finding exercising that I enjoy, that actually like feeds my spirit as well as my body. And then also doing it as a celebration of my body and like being grateful for, I really do this practice of like when I'm doing yoga or something, or even when I'm not, even when I honestly, because this still happens when I like look in the mirror and want to go like, ugh, I'll try to stop and be like, thank you, legs for taking me everywhere I need to go. Thank you, eyes for seeing truth, and thank you, mouth, for speaking my truth, or whatever, just like thanking my body parts and being like, I have this capable, healthy body. Why am I being so hard on her?
Yeah.
Like I need to give her what's going to make her the healthiest possible, and like do it in celebration and gratitude for my body, as opposed to like you said, a punishment.
Beating it up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's so sad and just heartbreaking how so many women do that and all the time and every single day. And there's going to be women who are 95 years old still, counting calories and beating their bodies up in this unhealthy way. And that's the aspect, I think, of Real Girl that inspires me the most, because that's really my mission, is to empower people around body image and creating a healthy relationship with food and their body. And when I have a bad body image day, which is what I call kind of that moment you were speaking of, I noticed that this happened to me like 2 days ago, and I was just, I don't know, I went to this this bar class at like 5 a.m. and I usually do that, but I just I was like running kind of late, and I don't like put on makeup or anything because it's freaking nighttime basically.
Yeah.
and so like my hair looked a mess, and like I think I had like a pimple brewing or something, like I don't know, I just like wasn't feeling great about myself. And there's like mirrors around, and usually it's like pretty dark in there, but I don't know, I was just like really looking at myself in the mirror, having that exact moment that you had. And the funny thing is that I actually, when I feel good about what I see in the mirror, I push myself more in the class, and I'm like, yes, I can do this. I'm empowered, and I'm like saying mantras in my mind and affirmations, and I'm like doing the movement, and I'm like enjoying the music, and I'm happy. But that day, because I felt so negative about myself, you would maybe think that I was like pushing myself harder and doing more push-ups and like doing the movements better. But really, I was just like, this is going so terribly. I just want to get out of here. I was like doing everything half-assed, and it was just not going well. And I think that's what self-love can do. Self-love can make you do the booty yoga or the bar class or whatever you're into better and not worse, and that's, you can punish yourself all day, but that's not where the change happens, or not change, but that's not where the juice happens. That's not where the gratifying feeling that you want from it. And really, like, exercise is a big one for me, where like I now look at it as a way to work my brain, and like the clarity of I feel better after I do it, and not from what happens to my body, but just that it's fun for me. Like, I like going because, like you said, it's a community, and community is so huge. And and I think that's really, really important, to find something. Like, I read this quote recently. I don't even remember where I saw this, but they're like, the best exercise for you is the one that you'll actually do, And so you have to enjoy it and like it. And it doesn't matter if it's really intense or not intense at all. It just has to be something that you enjoy. And that's so key and crucial and really important. And I love what you said too about, saying to your legs, like, thank you for carrying me and walking and standing and all of that. And I was listening. Do you know who Cheryl Strait is?
Yes. Yeah, I love her.
Amazing. I was listening to her on the long form podcast a couple weeks ago, and she was saying, the host was really good. He asked, everything I wanted to know, and he said, he asked her about body image, because she writes a lot about body image in her Dear Sugar column. And so he was like, did you ever struggle with body image, especially with when Wild came out and Reese Witherspoon playing you and being in Hollywood and all of that? And she was like, yeah, she was like, when I was on the red carpet, like I had all of these feelings about myself come up, but then, and this is the thing that changed everything for me, Val, it like helped me so much. And she was like, I would have those feelings, but I would just stop myself and I would be like, Cheryl, you're not allowed to think that. And she would just like, she'd be like, yep, I thought it, but I'm going to just like, I'm not going to let it hold me back. And when I heard that, it changed everything for me, because I was like, I will still probably have these thoughts about myself. I don't know for how much longer. Maybe I'll like hit 30 and stop, but I don't know. And I'll probably keep having them for the rest of my life. But now I refuse to let them allow me to like shred or not hide or not be productive or not, like you were saying when we were 9, like show ourselves. And I think that was just really helpful for me.
Oh, I love that. That's so awesome. And it does kind of go back to that treating yourself like your best friend thing, where like if some thoughts that I've had when I was really being hard on myself about my body is like, if somebody were to say the things that I'm saying to myself about a friend of mine, I would like tell them to go to hell and be like, you're so wrong. She's beautiful. Like, how could you even say that? So like, why wouldn't I defend myself that way? And sometimes, you're your own worst critic. So sometimes the person you're defending yourself to is yourself. But like, it's just so important to love yourself in that way, because you can't move forward unless you do.
Yeah.
My
one of my coaches in healing all this body shit that I've been in, she taught me that the only, and you might know this from Real Girl, but the only proven way to improve your body image is exposure therapy. So literally looking at photos of people your size or bigger, and it's better if they're idealized images. So, like plus size models or people who, you look up to. And even if you don't like them at first, even if you're like, oh, I don't want to be like that at first, even if you think thoughts like that, after a while it helps you, because it's easier to find beauty in people outside of ourselves. And then you build that skill, you build that muscle, so then you can do it with yourself. And that's been so helpful for me, and something that I think we all need to be reminded. I talk about that all the time on this podcast, but it's good. Everyone needs to hear it again. And it's important. It's crucial. And that's something that the media really lacks. And there's a few people out there like doing amazing work with like being themselves and being in the media right now. And I just hope there will be more and more and more of that, because it's so damaging to only see one type of person portrayed.
Right, totally. I mean, that's so interesting, because the exposure therapy makes perfect sense, and then it's also really scary because you realize that the exposure that girls are getting from a very young age is just this one specific type of body. Yeah. That's beautiful too, but it's not even close to the only, like, what's beautiful is that we are all so different,
body diversity exists, and thank God it does, because the world would be so boring if it didn't.
I know, of course, absolutely. Like, I'm just so, a big like moment for me, even when I felt like I was finally, all throughout high school, I have very clear memories of like looking at my naked body in the mirror and crying, like just like weeping because I felt like that was the unveiling time where I was seeing like what kind of body am I going to have? I just kept like wondering that. And then the more I was like forming and it was becoming what it is, I was like so disappointed, because long before I ever knew what kind of body I was going to have, I was being told what kind of body I should have.
Yes.
So I was already making those comparisons at a time when it should have been like, oh my gosh, my hips are getting bigger. Like, oh, my boobs are developing. Like, times when I should have been so excited to see what my body was turning into. It was like, oh no, are my thighs just going to keep growing? Or, like saying these like feeling these really hateful things towards my own body. So
you're battling, like what I always have to realize when I, again, because this is a constant work towards trying to have the healthiest body image possible. And it doesn't happen every day. And I still find myself at like Hollywood functions or something where it's all just like really tall, skinny model women and feeling very inadequate. I have to just remind myself, like, I'm going to use the Cheryl Strayed, like, you don't get to feel that way. But then also being like, talk about like exposure. Not only were you being exposed to all these, women that you were comparing yourself to, but also like the first thoughts that I had about my body were negative. So like, I also was training myself kind of in a way to dislike my body by looking at it in the mirror and picking out all of the things that I didn't like about it, so that's something that I have to just like, I really feel like this is making me feel like, oh my God, I need to just like every day kind of like an affirmations way, just like look at my body and say loving things about it to try and undo all of the years that I did the opposite,
Yeah, and focusing on the good, focusing on and finding and this for me, honestly, and this is what I talk about a lot and what I talk about in the book is, finding your worth outside of your physicality. I think I was so obsessed with my body and, food and weight and all of it because I felt like I was worthless beyond my body. I didn't feel like I had anything to contribute beyond that. So embracing my creativity was the thing that really helped me find my worth outside of my physicality. And that's what I always recommend to people. And I think the best way to start with that is to journal or to get to know yourself, like we were talking about at the beginning, and you can't really embrace your creativity until you figure out, what it is that lights you up. And, Brene Brown has this quote where she says, oh, this one's so good. She's like, unused creativity is not benign.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh, that gave me goosebumps.
Right? Goes right in, right?
Yeah.
Just like goes right in. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a good one. And I think she actually said that on Elizabeth Gilbert's podcast, which
my God, I haven't listened to that yet.
Oh my gosh, you have to check it out. It's so good. She
I
just
will.
did like one season of it, but it's top notch. You should listen to it. But
I definitely will.
It's crazy, I think defining yourself outside of your body is just key to help. I know that for me, when I am having a bad body image day, something that helps me shift out of it is doing something creative. If I write that day, or if I, like record a kick-ass podcast, or just like do something that I can get my worth in another way. And, maybe that's not the healthiest way to do it. I think the healthiest way to do it would probably be to find your worth just because you exist. But I'm not there yet, so I do these other things.
No, yeah, absolutely. But I think that is a very healthy way to and reminder that like we're complex people, because the reason why you and I feel and so many women have felt like my worth is in my body is because we're all but being directly told that as women in this culture.
Yeah.
That like that is our highest value. And boys have body stuff too, but there isn't that much pressure in like you can only be this, whereas we're told like that's first, and then whatever little hobbies you want to have after that, that's totally fine, so I think that is a beautiful and really important way to combat that kind of training, is being like, no, I'm a complex person. I'm not just this outward body. I'm a spirit, I'm a soul, I'm a brain. I can do all of these other things that are of value, to society. And it made me think of in Amy Poehler's book. Have you read Yes, Please yet?
No, I haven't read it. I'm like it's like the only book I haven't read. But I was going to mention something about Mindy Kaling's book. I need to read. Yes, please. Tell me what I interrupted you, but tell me what you're going to say.
No. And I need to read Mindy Kaling's book too. I haven't read that yet.
Good. But we'll share our favorite body image quotes from them.
Perfect. That's perfect. But Amy Poehler mentions, she says, I basically came to terms with not came to terms with, I want to make sure that I get this exactly right. She was like, I realized early on I was just going to be a really funny plain girl, and I was totally okay with that. Mm-hmm. Like and when she says that, you don't get the sense that she's like actually thinks that she's plain, but she's like talking about like by, our culture standards, and certainly by like Hollywood standards, I might be plain, but like, who cares? I'm super funny and talented.
Yes.
And another thing, I just watched the documentary Iris, which I also recommend. And it's just about this like really hilarious, eccentric woman in her 90s.
Yes.
And
I love her.
I love her. And at the end, she has a quote that's so beautiful where she's like, I've never been interested in pretty people because all the pretty people that I know, this is like obviously like this blunt, like older lady way of saying this, but it's so perfect. She's like, all the pretty people that I know, that they only had their looks and then that quickly faded as they aged. And now they're left with nothing. So she's like, I learned early on I had to have other traits besides my looks if I wanted it to last. Isn't that so good?
So good. And that's why like all this body stuff is so fleeting. So it's like, aging's going to come. So you might as well learn to love, we might as well all learn to love our bodies as they are because they're constantly changing. So to love your body, as you want it to be, defeats the purpose because you might get there, or like for me, like I did get there. And the really crazy thing is that like I want to tell you that I didn't feel the confidence and the love and the acceptance that I thought thinness would bring me, but I did. And the thing is, it wasn't sustainable. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't, it wasn't where I was meant to be. But I got all of those things because in our society, thin privilege exists and people are discriminated on on the basis of size and weight every single day. But do I want to be part of the problem or the solution? And I think that's what's really great about, the people in the media who are being themselves and they aren't manipulating their bodies to be a way that they don't want to be naturally, because they show other girls and me that it's okay, and that as you are is beautiful. Thin, thick, I think I'm quoting Pete right now without even meaning to, but he has like a really amazing bit about this, and please tell him, because like that actually really helped me a lot, like healing my body image issues and my eating disorder, where he talks about the different body shapes, and he says like thick milkshake, small milkshake, thick milkshake, thin milkshake. It's all good. I'm gonna post it in the show notes. I've already like posted it a bunch because it's like my favorite thing ever. But,
I love it. Yeah,
please tell him.
I will, absolutely. And interesting little side note, that's the first bit. When my mom heard that I was dating a comedian, she Googled him, and that was the first bit that like came up, and she loved it. She was like, "Oh my gosh, how amazing!"
Oh my gosh, that's so funny, because I actually sent it to my mom, and she also was like, "Oh my gosh, I love that." Like it really helped her a lot, and it really helped her, and we were able to like talk about it, and so it's the greatest bit for women and for body image out there, and it's so amazing.
I know. I think it's so important, and and that is like truly how he thinks. And I always like tell him that I think he's doing such good work just by being vocal about like how he's like attracted to non traditionally like by our standards attractive women or whatever. So like he's really like he's attracted to all kinds of different women and very clear about that. And I think it does so much, not that that's what you want to base all of your healthy body image on, but like it helps to hear a guy saying the opposite of what we are told.
Honestly, it's so helpful. Like, it's helped me a lot. And also, like, for people listening, since this is a podcast, Val is beautiful, like, completely gorgeous by all standards. But it's helped me a lot. And I think, like, even, like, having a lot of couples in my life and just watching the dynamic with really healthy relationships, like you and Pete, I consider you like people in my life, and and just watching that, and to know that like he says in the bit, people are attracted to all different types of body shapes, and if someone isn't liking what you've got, they're not your person. And that's it. End of story. And that lesson helped me a ton. And I think this is the quote I was going to tell you actually from Mindy's book, her most recent book, but she says in there, she's like, if you've got it, flaunt it. If you don't got it, flaunt it too, because if you're not flaunting it, why are you here? And it's the same thing. It's like, just flaunt whatever you've got, because there's someone who's going to like what you're selling. And at the end of the day, they will like it if you like it, and that has to come first. And that's tough, it's really hard because, like you were saying, all day long, we're getting the message that fat is bad and thin is good. And we've been getting that message from the media, from advertising, ever since we were children. Think to like Ursula is the only fat character that I can think of in Disney movies, and she's
evil.
Exactly. And so it's so interesting how this stuff gets picked up and ingrained from such a young age. And so anyway, I'm really glad we're talking about it.
Absolutely. And I love that quote. That's so good. And it really is like, I think that you have to. So because I am dating somebody who is so clear and vocal about like how I'm exactly his type, and has been from day one, like the first thing he said to me, ever texted me, was, your body is perfect, which is just like an unbelievable thing to say to almost a complete stranger. So he's from day one been very I'm convinced. He looks at my body and thinks that it is exactly everything that he wants. And that feels unbelievable. And it really gives me this kind of safety to be vulnerable and to be open with him that I just don't take for granted. But that wouldn't be as powerful, even if you do find, and you should find, the person who likes what you're selling. That then you also have to believe it on your own separately from them. Otherwise you won't be able to receive it at all, and it'll just be kind of a waste. So not only is confidence the sexiest thing, and we see that all the time, often what we think is sexy about somebody is how they look, but it's really that they're confident in how they look. But also you need that confidence to be able to receive
it.
To receive that love. So that's been really something that I really have to challenge myself on, is not to depend on the gratification that I get from living with somebody who's so attracted to me, and not just relying on that to believe that I'm attractive, but to also just believe it on my own.
Yeah, because on days where you don't feel it, even if he was to tell you, you probably wouldn't feel it. And I kind of I had that in my last relationship, but I so didn't have it myself that I couldn't receive it. And that's the key. It's you really have to have both, but you can't have the one until the first one comes,
Yep, absolutely.
The chicken before the egg, or whatever.
Totally. Yeah. It's you have to love yourself before you can fully receive love. And then, that doesn't just apply to your body, but it certainly does include that,
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. There's, this is kind of off topic, but I want to share it around body image. I was listening to I think it was the most recent, doesn't matter because this will be out later, but a podcast of Pete's, and I think you were there when he was talking about self-love and how, I think this is maybe like a Ram Dass thing, but how when you look at trees, you don't, and you can maybe help me with this if you know this better, but it really blew my mind, and he wasn't saying it in relation to body image, but I applied it to body image because it really helped me. But when you look at trees, you don't look at them as, being good or bad, you just look at them as trees, and then if you notice, some trees might be a little bit bent from the wind or have been, a little bit more run down, but they're just beautiful and you love them as trees. And I think you can really apply that to different bodies, because I think comparison, I know for me, is something that really trips me up when it comes to body image. I could be feeling really great about myself, but then I'll see someone else and be like, oh, but I want to be like that, or I find that beautiful. And comparison is really the thing that in all areas of life, but keeps us stuck. Did I get that right with the tree thing?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And what an interesting way to because I love that too. And I love thinking about that in terms of body image, because the truth is every judgment that we make when we see these bodies it's inherited or it's taught. It's not actual truth. So it's not like, oh, that's unattractive, or that's not, that's all a reaction to what we've been told. And a really powerful moment for me was when I saw that video that was kind of going around of the different I hope I'm getting this right. I think it was actually a picture of one woman that was photoshopped for different cultures to meet their society, their standard of beauty. And it was like all these different types of completely different things that were considered beautiful based on the culture that you were raised in. And that's the same thing that helped me with let go of my fundamental beliefs in religion is if I was in a different culture, I would be a different religion. Right. And it's true with beauty too. If I were raised in a different culture, my standards for beauty would be completely different too. And I'd be more concerned about if my feet were small, or if
never
something
thought
else.
Of it that way. I've never connected those two, but yeah.
So it's really just seeing the trees as they are and trying to let go of all of that stuff that's really, really, when you think about it, just very arbitrary, but we put so much weight on it. And it's that was just something that was told to us. And if we were living somewhere else, they would be telling us something different,
Yeah. Yeah. Or looking back 100 years ago, the standard of beauty then was a plumper body shape, because that was what was most difficult to attain and what cost the most money to attain. And society tends to gravitate towards rarity, and rarity is what takes resources. And now, it costs more money to have the gym membership and have the time to go to the gym and have the, money to buy the green juice or whatever. And so that's what we value. And so just looking at it and just like you said, those two ways are really helpful. And it doesn't, and here's the thing though, and this is something I want to ask you, it doesn't mean it's easy, it's still, it's really freaking hard to do it every day. So what are some of your, I guess you've shared a ton of them already, but what are any ways that you shift out of bad body image, or any self-care tools or rituals that you have?
That's a really good question. I really think that it can be as simple as if I'm feeling really gross about myself, I will. Elizabeth Gilbert, you might have heard, suggests this for writing, to motivate yourself for writing. But I think that this is really good for body image and for motivating yourself for anything. But she's if I'm stumped writing, I'll stop, I'll take a shower, a long shower, I'll do my hair, I'll do my makeup, I'll put on a dress, I'll light candles, I'll set an environment that feels beautiful, and then I feel ready. It's you're giving a sense of occasion to whatever you're working on.
Yeah.
So not that my combating body image is oh, I just do my hair and makeup, but even as simple, this is so crazy, but if I'm feeling bad about my body, sometimes I just put on my favorite red lipstick, and it's not that like all of a sudden I feel beautiful. It's that like, I feel like fancy, you know?
Yeah.
And like I'll pour like a glass of wine or something, or I'll like, I'll sit on the porch and like try to notice the beauty around me, because really, if you want to get real Ram Dassi about it, we're just like, to our core, we're reflections of the universe.
Ram
So
Dassi.
Ram Dassi. So I found that like surrounding myself with beauty and noticing the beauty, or not even surrounding myself with beauty, but just noticing the beauty that is around me, will kind of help me get into like a more beautiful place where I'm not being so critical about myself. So yeah, that's definitely one trick, is just straight up red lipstick, even if nobody else is seeing you.
No, that's so cool. And like what you were saying about the Ram Dassi piece is that like I totally get that, and I didn't even the way I articulate it isn't as deep, but I just kind of am like, well, if I look bad, I don't have to look at myself, because I am actually just a pair of eyes. And I, like on days when like my hair is greasy, or like I don't feel good in my outfit or whatever, like I'm like, well, sucks for everyone else, but I don't have to look at that. Like I get to just observe the world and be part of the world, and that's not easy at all, and I can kind of see through that and be like, well, if I get my picture taken, it's going to stink, or like, there are mirrors, but
yeah, totally. And the truth is that it's like, sometimes the theoretical truths that we, like exactly everything that we've been saying, when like the what is that term, the pavement, when the rubber hits the road, sometimes that's just like not gonna cut it in practice, and you actually like have to see something a little bit, like find shortcuts for your brain to accept that, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you just have to like
put on the lipstick.
Yeah, put on the lipstick, just trick it for a second and just be like, look, this, just to kind of pull yourself out of that pit of like distorted reality, basically.
Yeah. And I know too that like style, and Amy Schumer has been talking about this, I think, a little bit, and she like collaborated with her stylist from Trainwreck about this exact piece of work that we're talking about using your style and like what Elizabeth Gilbert was saying, to make yourself feel better about what you're wearing. And I know for me that I have to have like, and I ask people the same question all the time, and so because it helps me very selfishly, and someone who came on the show recently said a similar thing, where she was like, I think you should always have at least one outfit or dress or something that you can put on and you just know feels good in your body no matter what. And that's so helpful for me, is just to have that, like, because how when you're trying to like put together a new outfit and you have to try it on, like you try on like a million different things and you're just like, ugh, nothing feels okay on me right now. And so having that one like go-to thing is really helpful, and it really just speaks to what Elizabeth Gilbert was saying, and Big Magic, which, can we just speak about how amazing Big Magic was?
Oh my gosh. Ugh, it was like so challenging and inspiring. So like every time you're like, this is really challenging, I need to like close this book right now and write something or whatever. You're like, it was also like giving you exactly the right dose of inspiration to be like, and I want to.
I know. I just love how she delivers every piece of wisdom that she delivers, because she does it with so much ease and realness, and she's also so gentle. I connect with her so much, and I'm so grateful that she exists.
I know, me too. And she also, for me, is like a voice, and especially in that book, she was like, she had such a gentle delivery, but was also the voice of like, girl, you got to be disciplined.
Yes.
And I was like, that is exactly what I like need to hear. And I feel like I should read that book every morning to like have a better day. Like I wish I could just read super fast so I could just remind myself of everything in that book, and it'll make me more productive each day.
I know. There were so many nuggets from that I took away. Like the one piece about, not forcing her art to support her.
Yeah.
And like that really blew my mind because I was very much like, well, I'm not a real podcaster if I don't make 100% of my money podcasting, or like I'm not, I'm not. All of that was so helpful. And then, the piece that you mentioned about, finding your routines and discipline and actually doing the work. And then recently, did you see she posted a talk that she gave with Oprah about passion?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I think I heard about that, but I didn't see the post.
I'll send it to you. Like right after this. But basically it was in the book, but she's speaking out against passion. And I think for me, it was so easy for me to look at people like her who've always known that she wanted to be a writer, or even like P and a lot of comedians where like they develop their craft and they work on it. And I recently like interviewed another comedian who was like so cool and I respected so much, and I was like, wow, she's known since college that this is what she's wanted to do, and she's developed this craft, and I'm like bopping around like jack of all trades, master of none over here. But really it's like, oh, we're all different, we're all on our own path, and that element just really, really helped me too. It's
oh
so
my
good.
gosh, that you really are speaking to something so so true for me too. Like and it's constantly something that I still am really battling, is that like I live with somebody who not only has always known basically what he wanted to do. I mean, it was like a youth pastor, but that was really just a way of being a comedian in the setting that he understood. But he also like has truly made his dreams come true. Like he like worked hard, and he's always got like 3 different things that are like progressing and really exciting and moving forward. And it's so inspiring to see, but it also occasionally will make me be like, what am I doing? Like, what are my interests even?
Me too. I mean, I basically live with him too because I listen to him a lot.
It's true. It's totally true. So
it's had the same effect on me, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like it can be so inspiring, but then you feel, and I remember I started feeling that so early on with my brother, because he was always a really talented musician, and so was my dad. And I just like didn't know what I wanted. Like I hadn't found that thing that like makes you want to get out of bed in the morning and that you want to work towards to get better. And honestly, I still like, I dabble with things, but like, I still wouldn't say that I have like one form of creativity that I'm like, this is my thing. Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what my future is in, all of this. But that's what I love about, like you were saying about Elizabeth Gilbert and Big Magic, is she's like, it's very much just promoting creative living. And some days I also play the ukulele. So some days that might just be like playing the ukulele, or like doing a watercolor, or, like trying to find the thing that like puts you in that sacred space. And then just being okay if it also never becomes anything. Like if it becomes anything in terms of like making you money, it still is something that exists in the world, but that really flipped my whole idea of it like on its head, and does kind of take the pressure off. Like, if you're doing something creative, then you're already doing the thing. Yep. You don't have to wait for that thing to become published, or for, to have 100,000 followers or something. Like, if you're being creative and existing in that space, you're already doing it.
Yes. Oh, I know. That really blew my mind. I'm going to send you this talk, and I think it might have been slightly repetitive from the book, but it was her delivery was just so amazing too. But basically she was speaking out against passion and saying, forget about passion, just follow creativity instead of following curiosity, not creativity. Follow curiosity rather than follow your passion, because some people like her and Pete have a passion. Great. Good for them. For me, I don't. I have lots of little passions and I have lots of curiosities to follow. And maybe one will turn into a passion, maybe not. But, I'm not going to not try my curiosities because it's not a passion,
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. I think that's so important, and like especially important in your 20s, but also important for everybody for your whole life, because you should be harboring curiosity in order to like continue to grow and learn. But I think the reason why I said especially in your 20s, I think it's so common for people in their 20s to really just be like wandering around, being newly an adult, having no idea what they want to do, trying to just like make it financially, so not even really feeling like they have the liberty to explore what they want to do, and just getting so frustrated with every year that they get closer to 30, thinking that that's like some kind of end point. Like, definitely by 30, I should have these things and be this way and know exactly what I want. And it's like, those are just like roadblocks. And I'm really preaching to myself here, because this is something that I really need to always hear. It's like, those are just roadblocks. Like, just be curious, exactly what you're saying, and be creative. And it doesn't matter if that looks like anybody else's journey, and it doesn't matter if don't be looking for like what that's going to result in, or what the 5-year plan is for that, or whatever it is. Just like, do your thing, chicken wing.
Yeah. Or, and it goes back to being present. I think that's the whole thing, and it's also the hardest thing, at least for me. Like, being present is everything. All the good stuff only can happen in the present moment, but it's also so hard. It's so hard to not be focused on what you want to be doing, or what you think you should be doing, or feeling like you're not doing enough. It's intense, man, but totally. It's everything. And
I know, it really is the answer to everything. I find myself in multiple conversations about completely different topics being like, oh yeah, I guess you just have to be present.
I know, and every time that's the answer, I'm kind of like, God damn it.
Annoyed, I know.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, I have to do that.
I know. It's so good though. Like, well, I'm sure you listened to the Josh Radnor episode.
Yes,
but I think it was in that, or maybe he said this in like another talk. I don't know. Whatever. He said, he has this quote where he says that nostalgia is not being present the first time you were there. And isn't that good? Isn't that a good one too?
Yeah,
I knew you'd love that. And he was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that makes sense. Because I'm like the most nostalgic person ever. I'm like all up on Time Hop, that app,
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at my like Facebook, what was I doing a year ago? And it's like, I wasn't being present. That's what I was doing. If I'm missing it now, Yeah. And so I'm really trying to be like, use that as a wake up call and be like, maybe I should just be present and grateful here, and not so worried about the future, or how I'm sounding, or what I did earlier, whatever.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. What an important like way to look at that. That's so true. I'm even thinking, what first came to mind was Pete and I just went to this Ram Dass retreat. That's where all those podcasts were coming from.
Cool.
And it was amazing, and such a beautiful, powerful, like emotional experience, but also just like swimming in the ocean every day. And
tell me everything.
it was so wonderful. And then my favorite part was that it was like a summer camp, basically, where like nobody had their phones. You would be walking from the ocean back to your room and see your friend and be like, hey, do you want to meet for dinner in 30 minutes? And,
Yeah.
And so it was like, had this beautiful community. But all of that is to say that like we were so present the whole time that like when we were leaving, it was really hard to say goodbye to everybody. And that part was sad. But like once we were heading home, we're like, both of us remarked on like how we were surprised that we weren't sadder, and that we weren't like thinking that we were going to miss it so much, but it just felt like a complete experience.
Yeah.
Because we had been present and we really soaked it all up, and we like got all that good nectar out of it, and then felt like, okay, we did that. We're complete. Yeah. So if we hadn't been doing that, I'm sure it would have been way harder to transition back to real life,
Yeah, that's like Josh Radnor's quote about nostalgia in action.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it made me think of. I was like, oh, that's why we weren't nostalgic about that, is because we were just present the entire time.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And you're so right. There's something to the fact of, like we were talking about earlier with community. I think community is the most important thing that we all need as humans. Like, I often wish on the regular that I just lived in a commune with all the people that I loved and needed around me, and did the same thing every day, and just like you were describing, which I guess is that Ram Dass retreat. Maybe I just need to go live there.
Yeah, I do recommend it, but yeah, that's once a year, but you're really preaching to the choir. That is Pete and I call it the farm dream, and it's like we live on like a farm and all of our loved ones have separate houses on the same land, and we like do retreats and festivals and and like just work on the farm, and that's like that is my number one dream. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but yeah, it's all craving that community. It's like remembering that we need each other, that we're all part of the same thing, and just like it's kind of a response, I think, to all these ways that we have made ourselves, isolated and just
separate.
Yeah.
And that's why we crave community, because we are all one, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's us just trying to get back to our natural state,
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I think that's why a lot of people, and myself included, are nostalgic for college or for camp or for, times when we've had that. And, I think, too, in our 20s, it's the first time that you're away from that, because and that's why it's so scary. And you have to, because you're away from it, and you have to go and create it for yourself wherever you live. And again, it's a challenge, and you have to figure it out and keep. And maybe that's why people, get codependent in relationships, because they're craving. This is all tying together. Very nice, Val.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. Bringing it back around.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I think people are putting on their romantic relationships the pressure of really what like a village should be doing.
Yeah, it takes a village.
Takes a village.
Oh, so good. We were right. You really get to the juice of the conversation a while in.
Yeah,
he's onto something with that.
Yep, I think he might be knowing. He knows what he's doing with that.
Yeah, he knows what's up. He's done a podcast or two.
Yeah, he knows.
All right. Well, do you want to wrap with some quick fire questions? They're really fun.
Sure. Sounds good.
Okay. So what is your favorite color? Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Some of them are longer, but you'll get it.
Yeah. My favorite color is yellow, but like a mustard yellow, like a golden, marigold yellow.
I love that color too. And I love chartreuse.
Oh, yeah. Chartreuse is a great color.
Great word, great color. I like the sound of it. I like the look of it. Everything about it.
Everything it's about, I'm into it.
Yeah, same. Favorite day of the week?
Ooh. It used to be Thursdays, because that's when Friends came on.
Yes. Oh, that was a fantastic TV night.
Yeah, it was just like the best night. I'm gonna say it's still Thursday, because that's the last time I've thought of that, and I'm committed to Thursdays.
Well, I love Thursdays. I'll tell you why, just in case this resonates with you, since we've been basically twins with all this other stuff. I like Thursdays because they're more like you got the anticipation for the weekend, right? So it's kind of like why I like Christmas Eve better than Christmas, It's
yes.
That's why I like Thursdays.
That is exactly right. It's the Christmas Eve to the weekend.
Totally. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm into it.
Favorite hour of the day?
I would say, I think 11 a.m. is my favorite hour of the day.
Nice.
That's when I'm like, it takes me a while to ease into the morning. And that is, I think, when I'm like thinking the sharpest, and like, it's right. I know lunch is coming.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a good time for me.
Nice. I like that. This is good. This is a perfect segue to the next question. This is like my favorite question that I ask everyone because it really gives me a glimpse into their lives. So what does your morning routine look like? What are maybe the first few things when you wake up in the morning, and how does that affect how the rest of your day goes?
I love that question. I have only recently found that it's really important for me to have a morning routine. I've struggled with waking up my entire life. Like it's been the hardest thing. I get so like grumpy when an alarm wakes me up. So having a routine where I'm being really gentle and easing myself into the morning has been essential. So okay, I get out of bed, I wash my face. I'll usually brush my teeth, and then I just like get kind of ready for the day. It's usually very minimal in the morning, and so like I'll like if I take a shower, it's a really quick one. Usually, I'm just like kind of getting dressed and putting on a hat, and then my favorite thing that I do is usually by the time I wake up, my dog Brody, who's the cutest creature ever in existence, is like patiently waiting by the door because he knows that the walk is coming.
A Bruin.
Yeah, it's a Bruin. So then I would say it, but I would say it, but he's right here and he'll get really excited. But I basically say, okay, baby Brody, in like this really excited way. And then he starts like jumping all around the house. And so we go and walk to the same coffee place that like everybody knows me now because we do this every morning. And like we just have our little morning walk. The street that we live on is so beautiful. There's so many trees and there's a daycare across the street. So you see kids playing and I always see my neighbor riding a bike.
It's like
yeah, it's a community, and it just like instantly kind of gently takes me out of sleep into this like safe like womb basically of community.
Yeah.
And by the time I get like it's not even the coffee that makes me feel awake. It's like the walk to the coffee, and by the time I get home I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready for the day now."
Yes. Oh, that's so good. And then it just made me think of this, but I think I know why we like Friends so much. It's because of that community. I always, still to this day, I don't really have it in that same way, but I craved having, people living across the hall and Central Perk downstairs, and who am I going to hang out with? Like, it's always them,
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, really quick, I had that in the community that I grew up in. Basically, not always, but definitely in my 20s, I was living with I lived with 5 of my guy friends for a couple years, and then I was living with my girlfriend. Like I always lived with multiple friends, and then also because it's such a small town, everybody is friends with each other, which makes a big difference. So it's like this very tight knit friend group, which I totally loved and felt a part of and was so essential to my development. And that was probably the hardest adjustment to moving to LA. Even though I'm still in contact with those people, it's still like, oh, now I'm, we do have a community of friends here, but it's not that same thing of just like everybody lives within like a walking distance and like we all hang out every night,
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. Like I studied abroad in college, and we had only 11 people in our group, but we all it was like magic. Like every single one of us didn't know each other before and got along amazingly, and we were all super, we were able to, it was cool because it wasn't like camp where you'd like hang out with them and then you'd all go live somewhere else. When we came back, we had like 2 more years of school together, and it was the most amazing thing ever. It really did feel like friends, and we all are very nostalgic for that time because it was the same thing. It was being around people who every day, we didn't even have any like real responsibilities or like life stuff while we were there. We didn't have to work. We were just there traveling and together, and it was just this like beautiful experience. And so same thing. I think anybody looks back so fondly on the times where you were like living in community with a bunch of people, and that's what we all crave. And you have to just like build, and I'm, again, like speaking to myself as well as everyone, but
Yeah.
you have to build that wherever you go and move to, and it can be challenging and out of your comfort zone, but it's so worth it, I think, and I'm trying to do it as we're speaking. So
absolutely, yeah. I think just like I've had to understand that there are going to be windows in my time of time in my life where that might not be exactly happening, but like that's the goal. I know exactly what it looks like, and I'm just gonna like, even if it means like having, lunches with people that I think I could connect with, or just trying to like find your tribe, basically. It's so important.
Yeah, and I think the internet is great for doing that, and I feel like I have my tribe on the internet, and that's amazing, and especially like what I do with like being online, it's fantastic and great, but there's something to be said for those IRL connections where those people that you can actually like snuggle and cuddle and bring you soup when you're sick, and it's important to have both.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so the other end of that question, what are your evening routines? What are the last few things you do at the end of the day to wind down and relax?
Oh, I love it. Well, we are like classic, like boring couple mode where pretty much every night ends with like just me and Pete and Brody watching Netflix and trying not to snack too much, and usually I'm like knitting or doing something a little bit with my hands that will keep me from snacking. But sometimes I'm just snacking. Like yesterday, we were watching TV. And like winding down, and we got this big gift basket delivered, and we were like, "Uh-oh!" And we just like broke into it. Much. It's like half gone now, so tonight will probably be the other half of the basket.
Oh my gosh, I want to come over. If I lived in LA, I'd come have snacks with you.
Yes, you would have an open invitation.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh, I love it. So, okay, well, I have some questions on what you're watching, but we'll get to those in a moment. So let's keep going. Let's bust through these quick fire. So what's your favorite vegetable?
Ooh, my favorite vegetable, I know this is a weird one, but it's onion. I love onions and everything.
That's so weird. Because I picture onion as not an alone vegetable. Like it's not. I know. Yeah, it's just like you. You need to be in community. Onions need to be in community.
That's exactly true. I'm the onion.
You are the onion. That's so funny. A favorite fruit?
Pineapple, for sure.
So good. So hard to peel. So worth it.
Yep.
But I don't even know why I said that because I always buy them pre-peeled.
I know, me too. I get the spears.
Yeah. I don't know why I was even complaining about something I never have to handle.
It's true, though.
Thank you, Whole Foods.
It's like, it's just like a perfect metaphor for life. Like the hardest things are the most worth it.
Yeah, exactly. What's the best meal you've eaten recently?
Ooh, that's, I'm going to say
the snacks.
The gift basket. All of the meals that we had on the retreat that we just went to were so good. And it was like basically some kind of rice and then something you put over that rice. And I realized that's what I'm always looking for is either just like quinoa with some kind of like vegetable.
All day long.
Or like a rice with like a curry over it. I just want rice or like a grain, and then I want something put on it. That's all
I want all day long, and I want it in a high-rimmed bowl, and I want it warm.
Exactly. Yep. That's it.
All I ever want.
Yeah.
Especially where I live because it's so cold.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. It's not even cold in LA, and I'm still like treating it like I'm using it as an excuse to just eat a bunch of comfort foods because I'm like, it's winter.
No, I think it's true. Like there's something to definitely be said for eating with the seasons, regardless of where you live. But also, do you know Janine Roth? You would love her. She wrote this book called Women, Food, and God that I think you would really like. It's about like emotional eating, and anyways, it's good. But there's this part in the book where she says that your brain doesn't register you having eaten a meal unless it's warm. Which I was like really into raw food when I like read that. So I was like, what? But it really is true for me that even if I love raw foods as much as the next guy but I feel definitely way more satisfied and better when I have something warm, or even if I have like a tea with like my raw whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So that might be interesting.
Totally. That's really fascinating to me because Pete feels really good when he eats raw and is like, that's like his jam all day long when he's like being, at his healthiest. Mm-hmm. And I did the raw thing for the better part of a year and was just like, this is not worth it to me. And I get that sometimes it would make me feel really good, but sometimes I'm like, I would feel just as good if I was eating sauteed kale.
Right,
over quinoa. Exactly. And I would be so much happier.
It's like we were saying before, that diet really depends on each person, and our digestion is really different. So like Pete's digestion is probably really different from yours.
Right.
And I think too it's a female thing. I think we need more substance to like produce blood every month, and and I think we need warm foods maybe for that. And then also too, like I think I've heard that kale, it's easier to digest when it's cooked, and a lot of things are easier to digest when they're cooked. So that might be part of it too. But
totally, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. What's your favorite part of your life right now?
Ooh, I love that question. And really hard right now because I just feel like I'm living in this dream that I can't even believe my life is real right now. My favorite part of my life right now, I think I'm going to say, is sitting on the porch with Pete and Brody every day. Like we just, at some point in the day, I'm going to go and do it as soon as we're done with this. Like the three of us just sit on our porch and we have these trees that we look at and we like laugh and we talk or we don't talk. And it's just my favorite. It's like always the moment when I stop and I'm like, damn, this life is good. Oh my God.
I can feel that. I just feel like you guys have so much fun together.
Yeah, we really do. We always, like, our favorite thing to say right now is, wow, it's really fun to be in love with your best friend. Like it just feels like a sleepover every day.
Why am I tearing up? That's I don't want to be super like fangirl about it, but I really do want you to know that it's really helped me so much, and I'm so grateful. Hi, Brody, what's up, man?
Sorry.
He's hanging out. No, I love it.
Hush.
It's so great. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to honor you guys because I think you're really awesome, and it's such a great power of example to see, and I'm just really grateful for it.
That really means a lot to me. Thank you.
No, I mean it. What are you most curious about in your life right now?
I would say I'm most curious just in general about like learning the most that I can about like feminist theory. That's something that I just, like I said, I feel like I never learned and I'm having to teach myself. So that's like what all the books I'm reading about are. And I really feel like that's a specific and important passion of mine at this stage. So yeah, I would say women's issues, feminist theory, all of that.
Same, actually. And it's just blowing my mind because it's opening me up to something that I didn't even really know existed as I grew up, and I'm so grateful to making everything else make so much more sense. And learn about it.
Totally. I feel exactly the same. It's like putting everything into this new framework, which is nice. Yeah.
Exactly. When and where do you hear your intuition the loudest?
Ooh, that's good. I think when it comes to in any situation where I'm having to love someone else, like a friend, or like being there for a friend, or being there for Pete, or showing somebody love, I feel like it's something that I really just have to like go inward and be like, what does this person need? You have everything that you need to be able to extend love to this person. And oftentimes we did this really good exercise. Sorry, I'm not giving very quick fire answers.
No. I love it. I could talk to you all night, but I don't want to take you away from your porch time.
No. But anyway, we did this really incredible exercise at the retreat where we had to look at each other, like you partnered up and you looked at each other and you said, and it was actually a listening exercise, but the prompt was, I could love others better if I, and then you answered that question. And I said, I could love others better if I didn't care so much about what they thought of me. Yeah. So I think that's a time when I really just, because so often I'm worried about like, what did they want me to say? How am I going to how can I be the best? How can they kind of see me as like a very good friend, and it becomes about you when really you just it's like, don't doubt yourself. This is the most ancient thing that we've done as a species is like be there and support each other. So just like trust your intuition and love the way that comes natural.
Val, you want to know something vulnerable and strange?
Yeah, always.
Yeah, who doesn't when you preface it with that? No, yeah. I mean, during like the beginning, I mean, we've been talking for like upwards of like 2 hours at this point, but like I was so in my head at the beginning because I was so excited to talk to you that I feel like I was blaming it on us getting to the juice because, it just like we were saying what Pete says about, it just takes like a half an hour. But really it was me being so like self-aware during the beginning of the interview. And then like halfway through, I was like, I forgot who I was. Like I knew I was talking to you, but I was so in the conversation. I was so present that it all like dissipated and goes away. Isn't it funny how that happens?
Oh, totally. And really, and like that is such a generous thing to share because that's just true with everybody. And I think in every conversation, really, like it's not even a conversation about like who you're having or the fact that this is like recorded or whatever. We're just always, I feel like, so aware of how other people are perceiving us that it can really hinder the true connection that we can have with people,
Yeah, I think as soon as you're aware of yourself and how people are perceiving you, you're taken out of the present moment and it's kind of ruined.
Yeah, exactly. That's so important. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, so good. Okay, so you're having a dinner party and you can invite 5 people. What would you make? Who would you invite? And what do you hope someone turns and asks you at the party? And what do you hope that someone doesn't ask you that you just don't feel like talking about?
Ooh, this is so good. Is it like anybody throughout history or like people that are, that broadens it. Okay, I'm going to just try to like answer and not overthink about my dinner party. So
you can always come back and answer again.
Thank you. 5 people. Okay, so I would say definitely Lena Dunham is there. She is the first. Done. She's the first person there, and she's brought me books
Last
to
read.
Leave.
Yes. Lammy, the whole gang.
Yeah, Lammy's there. The whole gang. So I would say Lena Dunham. I know it's lame, but I'm going to say my brother because I love hanging out with him and I miss him. Beyonce.
Oh, done. Oh my gosh. I'm going to need to like sneak a ticket and be the 6th in this dinner party because it's getting good.
I guess Taylor Swift because then Lena and Taylor Swift know each other.
Yeah, that's a good dynamic. And I think she knows Beyonce.
And
too.
she knows Beyonce, yeah. So I'm making kind of an intimidating crowd.
Yeah.
Good thing my brother's there.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's see. Brother, Lena, Beyonce. So I get one more. Pete. I would have Pete be there.
Okay, this is like my dream dinner party. And so I'm going to have to like change the question and make it 6 so I can come too.
Okay, you get there.
Sounds amazing.
You are the 6th one, absolutely. So and then I would make last year I made a really good vegan Friendsgiving like feast.
Oh, that's the best.
And it was my favorite food I had ever eaten and I was like so surprised and proud that it turned out.
Yeah.
So that was like a vegetable pot pie and like a sweet potato mash thing, and
Yeah.
green bean casserole, like vegan green bean casserole. So I think I would make that for sure.
Now I
Um,
really have to come if that's the menu.
yeah. And then, okay, what was it? What do I hope somebody asks me, and what
Exactly.
do I hope somebody doesn't?
Yep.
I'll start with doesn't first. I hope uh, I wouldn't want somebody to ask me what I do. Like that's a little bit different now that I have Real Girl. But there was a period of time where I was really just trying to figure out what I was doing, and people would always ask me like, "What do you do?" Which is such an innocent and normal question to ask somebody, but it would give me such anxiety because I didn't want it to look like I was just like a freeloader and was just like, I don't do anything. I just live with Pete and what, like, it was like, I have interests. Like I paint,
Yeah.
I write,
Well, it's
but
like
yeah.
what we were talking about with the Elizabeth Gilbert thing about curiosity and
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. So I wouldn't want somebody to ask me that, even though I have Real Girl and I'm proud of it. I still feel
It's your
like,
work.
yeah, exactly. It's so vulnerable, and that's the question that I'm most likely to feel like I have to defend somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't like that question right now. And what do I hope somebody asks me? Um, that's a really. I hope somebody asks me, when does the dance party start?
Yes.
Because I'm always hoping that our parties will turn into dance parties, because they used to all the time when back in my hometown, but they haven't so far. So we'll see. Hopefully
Well, with that crew, I can tell you right now, it would
Yeah,
be amazing. And I
for
would
sure.
be sure to help you get that started.
Thank you. Yeah, I would hope that like Beyonce would just do a live performance and we could all dance to
Oh my
it.
God. I'm just visualizing this right now and I'm like shaking. I'm so excited.
I love it. Let's make
I'm
it
having a
happen.
physical reaction.
I know.
Oh my
It's the
gosh.
dream.
So good. Okay. What is a piece of advice you would give to your younger self? It's such a cliche question, but I love it.
Oh, I love it. And I think it's so important. I think it's a question that we should constantly be asking ourselves. In fact, Amy Poehler, again, in her book, says something about um, doing that, like what advice she'd give to her younger self, and then what her 90-year-old self, what advice
Yeah.
she would give her
Oh,
current
that's a
self,
good
which I
one.
think is really important.
I should add that.
Yeah, it's good. So I would give the advice I would say is, I think just kind of everything that we've been talking about, but just I would say don't be afraid to explore who you uniquely are. Don't feel pressure to be any one thing. Just focus all your energies on figuring out what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like, and what makes you feel alive and what feels like it's sucking your spirits, and gauge your path purely based on that. I wish that somebody had told me that, as opposed to having kind of already a set out. I'm such a pleaser that I had this format already kind of laid out for me of how my life should go, that I really wanted to please everybody and do that. And I don't regret those experiences because they were very valuable in a lot of ways, but it led to me at age 25 having to just like hit the brakes and turn the car all the way around and kind of start from scratch. So yeah, I would say just don't be afraid to be uniquely you.
So good. I love that.
It's a
So
good question.
thanks. This is a fun one. You're trapped on an island and you can only bring with you one TV show to binge watch, one book to read that you really like, one movie, and one food that you wouldn't get sick of. Go.
Ooh, whoo. Okay, show is Girls 100%.
Duh.
I already binge watch it, and I have other things that I could watch. Book, I think book would be Little Women. Little Women. That's like something that's one of the few
Solid.
books that I
Classic.
just like reread over and over, and it's like a world that I want to exist in. And
Movie.
Movie. Ooh, I'm gonna go with an unexpected answer. This isn't my favorite movie, I would say, but it's the movie that I would want to watch over and over and in this situation. And I'm going to go with Step Brothers.
Oh, nice.
Just because that's like the movie that I watch when I really just want like to be reminded of silliness.
Yeah. And I think on a deserted island, you would need something light.
Totally, absolutely. But my actual favorite movie is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless
Oh, stop it.
Oh,
my
I
gosh,
love that
it's
movie.
so good. It's so good. I have it on DVD, and it's like one of like the 3 movies that I don't know who still has DVDs, but for whatever reason, I just like can't get rid of that one because I love that movie so much.
I do too. And actually, talking about another good choice, talking about our similarities, would be Happy Thank You More Please.
Yes.
I think that's like a good remind you that there's beauty and love in life.
Yeah, that's what I usually say is my favorite movie. That movie, or this is like really random or weird, but have you seen Serendipity?
Oh yeah, I loved Serendipity. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Well, it's a good Christmas movie. You and Pete should watch it.
We will, because we've run out of Christmas movies at this point.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, so.
Oh my God, we're probably gonna watch it tonight.
Oh, good. Okay, well, text me and like tell me because it's my favorite. I know like every line from it. I listen to the soundtrack of it and I pretend that I'm in a movie. I like have a playlist on Spotify of that soundtrack and the Love Actually soundtrack and the Holiday soundtrack, and I just listen to them. And instead of listening to Christmas music, and I feel like I'm in a Christmas movie instead of like it being Christmas time. It's really weird, but.
No, that's so genius. The Love Actually, okay, if I can just talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
I also listened to that soundtrack. I watched that Christmas movie like multiple times every year. And that was my movie with my like really close girlfriends. And so like we still text each other every time. I think you can, if you go onto Pete's Instagram, the picture that he posted of us last night, one of my like close girlfriends commented and said, I just watched Love Actually, because we like tell each other every time we watch it, because it's like still our connection of like favorite movies ever. I love that movie so much. Maybe I'm changing my answer from Step Brothers to Love Actually, because really is the beginning of Love Actually will make me cry every time.
Oh my gosh, Val, listen to this. You're gonna die. So when I was in high school, we could like go home for lunch or whatever, and my friends and I would go home from lunch and we would watch just the beginning of Love Actually before we'd go back to school to like get a hit of it. It was so weird.
Oh my God, that is adorable. And I would have done the exact same thing. I wish we knew each other in high school.
I do too. It's so funny. But you know, this is like a tangent now, but I too love Love Actually so much, and I was on Facebook and I always ration it. Like I don't allow myself to watch it unless it's the holiday season.
Yeah, me too.
And so yeah, so holidays are coming up, whatever, and somebody posted on Facebook like a BuzzFeed thing about 10 things about Love Actually, and someone tagged, like my friend who also loves it with me, tagged me, and I was like, oh cool, it's gonna be like favorite moments. And next thing I know, I'm on BuzzFeed and it's like 10 things that are problematic about Love Actually from a feminist perspective.
Oh no.
And it totally ruined it. I'm not going to even send you the article. I wish that I could remove it from my mind, because it's like all of these like, you know, like really like negative body image things and like feminist things, and like there's a lot in it that you can probably even think of right now, but I don't even want to say anymore, because I was like, dang it, I just love this movie. Why is it ruined now? I wouldn't have even thought of it that way before. But
I know. You know what's so funny is like I'm such in that headspace where now every movie and show that I watch, I'm like I'm giving the feminist critique on it. And my brother forwarded me an Onion article recently that said, I want to make sure I get it exactly right. The headline was, feminist suspends her belief for 2 hours so that she can enjoy any movie.
Yes.
Like, it was
my gosh.
so brilliant because it was like, that's true. Like it is shitty and it is something we should address, but also like, if we want to enjoy a movie, sometimes you have to just be like, all right, it was 2001 or whenever.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I was just having this conversation with a friend where I was like, God, don't you just wish you could turn it off for a minute and just like enjoy entertainment in a way that like I wasn't looking at it with that critical lens. And I have to really do that. And of course I would prefer for there to be really, mindful shows that do to like, did you watch Master of None?
I watched the first like 2 episodes.
Yeah, so like that had a lot of like really good, you could tell it was like had lots of feminist stuff in it and it was great. And so it'd be great if everything was like girls and everything, had some really great, things in it, but that's just not the world that we live in yet. And we can't just like not entertain ourselves. So
totally. Yeah. And we were just watching last night, we were watching Batman Begins, rewatching that. And Pete was like, it's the whole like storyline with Bruce and his dad, and his mom is literally, Pete's like, you're going to hate what like his mom's character in this. She does not say a word. And this whole time it's just his father, like teaching him this wisdom and all this stuff. And his mom is in the shot. It's like, it would have been better if they had just like killed her off. Like she's just in the shot, but never says a word. And I was like, yeah, that's really stupid and frustrating, but like I guess that wasn't their battle. Like they weren't that wasn't their thing that they were trying to do. So again, not to justify it, but it is like eventually you have to just like still be angry about it, but also allow yourself to enjoy wonderful movies like Love Actually.
Yeah, exactly. And then, make it a discussion. And like Pete said, just being aware of it enough to say that you would, notice that,
exactly
is good.
Yeah, exactly.
So the one other thing for the island, what food would you bring with you that you wouldn't get sick of?
I would say, I'm going to go ahead and say, well, like, can it be something like quinoa with mixed vegetables on it?
Yeah, why not? Best.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So technically it's kind of 2 foods, I guess, but
all mixed into one bowl.
Yeah, just like a bowl of like quinoa, sauteed kale and onions and mushrooms and maybe some lentils in there too.
I'll even let you bring some avocado or tahini, whatever you need.
Thank you.
Whatever you need.
I appreciate that.
On my island.
Oh, wow.
And I want to come with you because if we're watching that movie and eating quinoa bowls, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it'll be the best island. And that's where we'll start our commune.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. There we go.
Well, this is perfect. This might be the answer to my next question, but this is the question I ask everyone who comes on the show. And as you know, the name of my blog and this podcast is The Wellness Wonderland. So when I offer that term to you, Val, to live in a wellness wonderland, what comes up? What does it look like?
Absolutely 100% the farm dream. Like I already described, it's exactly that. Like I still actually feel like it could happen where like at least my brother and my sister-in-law live there, and like maybe a couple friends that we can get if it's close enough to LA, maybe we can get them to move there. And and it's really just like a communal living, but nobody has to abide by by any rules. Like everybody can live their own lives, but we're just there together to like support each other. And then I would say very specifically, like at least every weekend, there is like a bluegrass band playing in a barn, and we just have like barefoot dance parties every weekend.
Oh my gosh. Can this just be now? And can I be invited to this commune? This sounds amazing. The Wellness Wonderland.
Yeah, you're definitely invited, and we'll have like farm to table dinners, and we'll invite people and have festivals and retreats.
Beyonce, Taylor.
And we'll just get the old standbys. And, but When I picture my healthiest, like happiest, highest self, I'm actually picturing just me in like a white cotton dress dancing barefoot in a barn. It's so weird. But I really like, that's like my inner self, just like feeling fully alive and self-actualized.
I think it's really great to have an image of yourself at your happiest and healthiest. I often have people in my yoga class, I do a visualization of people and I ask them to do that exact thing. And that's great that you have that image of yourself, of what that looks like for you. And I think, you know, community and being around people, whenever when I mentioned my study abroad, whenever I've been around people, it's when I've happened to been the healthiest and happiest, because it brings out the best in you.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. It's all putting into that love bowl, like I mentioned.
Yes. Tying it all back up with a bow. This has been so amazing. Seriously, thank you so much for everything you shared. You're way cool, and I'm glad I got to know you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you reaching out, and I've enjoyed every minute of this, and let's keep having conversations, whether they're recorded or not.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.